Hello and welcome to And the Runner-Up Is. This week on the show, we're talking the 2008 Best Actress race at the Academy Awards, where Kate Winslet won for her performance in The Reader. But why did she beat fellow nominees Anne Hathaway, Angelina Jolie, Melissa Leo, and Meryl Streep? We'll explore all this and more today on And the Runner-Up Is. Hello and welcome back to And the Runner-Up Is. I'm your host, Kevin Jacobson, here to talk about the 81st year of Best Actress at the Oscars, which covered the films of 2008. We'll be discussing how Kate Winslet won, why the losers lost, and who we think was the runner-up of this Best Actress race. And my guest today is someone you last heard on the Best Picture series just a year ago, breaking down All Quiet on the Western Front, Everything Ever All at Once, and the other films in that fun Best Picture lineup of 2022. Now she's back here on the Best Actress series for the first time. She is the co-founder and editor-in-chief at Offscreen Central and member of the Online Association of Female Film Critics. Welcome to the show, Kenzie Vanunu.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I forgot the last time I was here. It was for All Quiet on the Western Front. What a time.
What a time. Yeah.
What a time.
Elvis was in the air. Yep.
Elvis was in the air. Didn't win anything, but I'm so excited to be on an actress episode.
I know.
It's so exciting, and I'm so excited to talk about this group. What a fun time.
Fun time. Yeah. Well, before we talk this group, let's talk Best Actress overall as a category. So first question for you, what would you say is your favorite Best Actress win of all time?
Okay. I have two that I change my mind on all the time.
Oh, okay.
I have Liza Minnelli for Cabaret because just what a win, what a moment, what a film. And then I love Natalie Portman's win in Black Swan so much. I love Darren before The Whale. I love Natalie. I love horror. I love ballet. It's all the things I've always wanted. So those are my two.
I love that. Also, Natalie Portman, I mentioned this actually on 2007, which you haven't heard yet, that I recorded with Steffi. She also noted Natalie Portman in Black Swan, which does not get mentioned often enough as one of the best. So I appreciate it. We got a back-to-back appreciation. Yeah.
I feel like it's just because it's so recent or ish. And then it's just like, it was kind of like a boring season in a sense.
Yeah,
like she just swept.
Right.
So it's like, it's not an exciting win. But when you think about it, like the genre of it all, the type of performance it is, like it's really bizarre and it's never happened again. So
yeah,
we try. It doesn't happen again.
Every year we try.
We try so hard.
Yeah. That's a great pick. Love that. Really looking forward to doing that in a few episodes, actually. So
I can't wait to listen.
And what an incredible lineup, by the way, 2010, I must say.
Oh my God. It's one of, it's the same thing. Like it's so recent. We don't really talk about how great it was all the time because it's like recency bias, but like what a lineup. All the actresses, all the it's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my other question, as you know, many, many heartbreaking losses over the years in this category. But what would you say is your most heartbreaking loss?
The thing is, it's also Natalie Portman in Jackie.
Wow.
It keeps me up at night. I think about society and where we would be if she had won. I think it's just, I saw it in the Dome, RIP, and that score and her accent. And there's so much there. And it's my favorite performance of hers. It's so good. And I think about her walking around the hallways drunk. Like it's just so good. It's everything I want from a lead actress win. So
yeah, I know.
It haunts
I
me.
specifically remember seeing Jackie in the theater and it was packed because it was like opening weekend. And I had to sit like almost in the very front.
Oh my God.
made the whole experience, because it's already kind of like a weird,
Yeah.
unsettling film to begin with, all the more strange to just see like this warped Natalie Portman almost.
I'm especially thinking of the scene where she's like in the cemetery. Like it's like almost like, oh my God, that like in the front row would make me honestly feel like seasick. Like,
yeah, I felt nauseous after that, but
what a commitment.
In a good way.
What a commitment.
I still loved it. Yeah, absolutely. And that is a very committed performance, and a very like, it's a big risk, I think, because you risk being like a little caricature-ish with Jackie Kennedy and the voice and everything. But yeah, I agree. She nailed it.
So good. So good.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, let's talk this year at the Oscars, the 81st Academy Awards. The nominees here were Anne Hathaway in Rachel Getting Married, Angelina Jolie in Changeling, Melissa Leo in Frozen River, Meryl Streep in Doubt, and Kate Winslet in The Reader, with the winner being Kate Winslet. It's finally her time. So before we break down these performances, Kenzie, what are your overall thoughts just from watching this lineup?
So funny. So I actually decided to rewatch one of these every day this week, just to space them out. What a weird group of movies to watch in a row. Like, truly. But this is so funny. This is like one of the first seasons I was like really invested in it, like on my own. Like my parents were big Oscars people, but like this was like a season like I was really invested, and part of it was because of Anne Hathaway. Like it was just so exciting to see her not in like, she had already done Brokeback, but like seeing her do something as a lead of this like caliber was really exciting. But it's just like such a weird group, like when you like look at them individually, but it's so fun. Like there's such different performances, and it's like so weird to see like these huge movies stars and then like Melissa Leo breaking in. It was really exciting, but the best part of this whole thing is the presentation of this lineup, which we got to see again, which was really exciting.
Yeah. It's a lesser effect, I think, this last time.
Rewatching the speech, like they have it to where you can see it, and it's like so funny, like to watch it. I'm like, this was not the way this rolled out this year, like at all.
I know. Yeah.
But it's a really great group. I feel like they're all winners now at this point, so it's like exciting to look back at something like that. Yeah, like it's really interesting. And one of my favorite Oscar looks of all time, Angelina Jolie with her black LA Saab and her giant emerald earrings. Like it's so memorable. But
glamour. Yes.
I think this is like one of the only like late 2000s groups that feels fun to look back on. Some of these are not that. I'm sure you're deep in it. So it's like some of them are just not as exciting as this one. Like this one is like a great group of actresses that I really love, like even if I don't love all these performances.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Yeah, I think this is a good lineup overall. I think it is, to your point, a good mix of stars. I do kind of love that most of them are just like full-on movie stars, Anne Hathaway, Angelina Jolie, Meryl Streep, Kate Winslet. Then we have Melissa Leo, who is not necessarily like a movie star type, but certainly like a hardworking actress, kind of like getting this great opportunity as a lead. And I think really, making the most of that opportunity, winning 2 years later and supporting. But yeah, I will say it's kind of a tough lineup to get through. I feel like a lot of these films are pretty bleak in different ways.
I watched Changeling one day, and the next day I watched Frozen River, and I was like, first off, I'm a mom, so this is already like a lot to unpack. But I was like, what were we doing to mothers this lineup? Like, what is going on? Like,
I know.
It's really bleak.
Yeah, not much fun lightness to be had. But great to see these breakthrough of like Anne Hathaway and Melissa Leo, having Angelina Jolie here getting her first Best Actress nomination almost a decade after her win in supporting actress. Meryl, of course, pulling off another accent and extending her record to 15. So, yeah, and then the big story of the year, of course, being Kate Winslet, who has this incredible double feature with this and Revolutionary Road, and just the wild way we ended up with her winning for The Reader and not Revolutionary Road. So, yeah, a lot of interesting kind of narratives in this particular race. which I'm always a fan of when there's some interesting stories behind all of the nominees. So excited to get into it with you.
I'm very excited. I keep
Yeah.
thinking of Shirley MacLaine going off script right now when she introduces Anne Hathaway. She's like, "You have a lovely voice."
Yeah. And like keep singing.
Keep singing. And then she wins for singing.
She does. She knew. She knew.
She knew.
Yes. And I always love Sophia Loren being like, Meryl Streep.
I think
with her
about
hand
it,
on her hip.
Her hand on her hip. It's just so funny. The delivery of it all.
Move.
Such a power move.
All right, let's get started here. First off with Anne Hathaway in Rachel Getting Married. All right, so Anne Hathaway gets her first nomination this year. Very exciting moment for her career that would ultimately lead to her winning supporting actress just 4 years later for Les Miserables. But since she is getting her first nom here, I will introduce her. She was born in Brooklyn, and she acted in school plays in high school and eventually attended Vassar College. She had her start in the industry when she was cast in a short-lived sitcom called Get Real, and pretty soon after that, she nabbed the lead role in The Princess Diaries, which was her big kind of coming out in Hollywood as a leading actress, and turned her into a big success pretty early on. And also working alongside Best Actress winner Julie Andrews, not a bad first film. And went on to do more family-friendly stuff like Ella Enchanted, and then another sequel to Princess Diaries. So then, as you kind of mentioned, her breakthrough as like a more adult star, adult fare, was Brokeback Mountain. And then the next year she was the lead in Devil Wears Prada, working with another Best Actress winner here, Meryl Streep. So very, very big moment for her. She's really hitting big in this era. She played Jane Austen in Becoming Jane, which was kind of mixed, but then 2008 is huge, where she's also co-leading Get Smart, and she has this amazing dramatic showcase with Rachel Getting Married. And this film, directed by Jonathan Demme, written by Jenny Lumet, big opportunity for her to show her range even further than she had before, playing a woman who is affected by drug addiction and trauma. And so she plays Kim, this woman who's just been released from rehab to attend her sister Rachel's wedding. And as she comes home, it becomes clear that she is the black sheep of the family and is further alienating herself with her increasingly self-centered behavior and comments. And that leads to major conflict and dysfunction as the family kind of tries to press on with the wedding. So let's get right into it here. Anne Hathaway, you kind of mentioned before this was your gateway into this a little bit. So tell me your thoughts, where your head was at in 2008, 2009, watching Anne Hathaway have this moment, and your thoughts on her performance.
So I am a big pop culture fan, like outside of movies. And she had a rough time, man, because her boyfriend was like arrested and like people lumped her into all of that. Like, I think it was just the year prior. And it was like she was in that Havoc movie, and that turned into like a whole, like, you know, the whole like, not Disney, like that's, I mean, she kind of is Disney, but like the whole argument of when like younger actors start playing parts that are like their age, and there's like, but it turned into a commentary or like people talking about her body and stuff. And it was just like really rough time for Anne Hathaway. And it was like you said, like this and Get Smart, it was like this big year, and it was like really exciting to see her do things that were not just like the Princess Diaries, which I love the Princess Diaries too.
Yes.
But like
no disrespect.
No disrespect. But it was like really exciting to see her do like two very different things to kind of show like she could do both at the same time. She could have like the big box office kind of movie, but also have this at the exact same time. And I don't know, but I really love this movie so much. I remember seeing it at my Angelica theater. It shows like a side of her I had never really seen, because she didn't get to do this in anything that she had done before. Like even if like Brokeback is so different and it's like such a different muscle, and it was something I never really expected from her, and I never really thought she would go that dark and that like vulnerable, and it was really exciting. But I was just really like so rooting for her. And then when this was good and she was good and it was well received, I was like, this is so thrilling. Rewatching it, I forgot Sebastian Stan was in this, and I was like, oh
yes,
my
briefly.
God.
I know.
It was like,
what a cast.
What a cast. But it was really exciting. And like you were saying, like the team behind the film, it's like it was so much pressure if it was going to be good or not. And so when it was good and she was well received, it was so exciting. And I don't know, it just felt like we grew up with her, so watching her like get this moment felt so special. Like when Shirley MacLaine presents her and she's crying, I was like, I'm also crying because this is really like you're right to bring up she was a princess and now she's this, because like it really felt like, I don't know. We always see like moments like this, but this felt like a real crowning, if you will, not to do a princess again.
Love it.
But it was really exciting.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I have really loved Anne Hathaway and seeing her evolve over the years, especially. I feel like, to your point, like people of our generation really almost have like a protectiveness with Anne. Yeah. Or at least some of us do.
Some of us. I remember the people who did not defend her and went after her. Yes. They're on a list.
You have the receipts.
Right? I have the receipts.
Yeah, like we did. We grew up with her, you know, Disney movies and Devil Wears Prada even, and seeing her emerge into these more challenging adult roles. And I think I just like that she has a real hunger as an actress, you know, and I think some clearly have found that off-putting, at least during the whole backlash era of like the early 2010s, but she is just such a theater kid.
Yeah.
And she can't really shed that part of her personality, but I absolutely love that. I love her earnestness and her enthusiasm for what she does. And yeah, I just find her to be a very endearing personality on top of being an actress. I even like the "it came true" moment that she says in her Oscar speech. I think that was really sweet. You know?
I love it, and I think more people need to be upfront in those moments like that.
Be honest.
It's what we want to see. Like, come on. Like, that's a big moment. It's so frustrating to me that people turn on that, because it's like, they work so hard to get to this moment, whether you like them or not. Like, especially someone like Anne Hathaway, like starting in movies like The Princess Diaries. I'm sure she was not sure if that was ever going to happen. And it's like, I don't know. That's why we watch them, you know? And this is why we watch the Oscars. I want moments like that.
And we have the winner this very year who is extremely enthusiastic to be winning her Oscar finally. So yes, she's just very committed to her craft, even when the roles maybe aren't the best, you know, like, as of late.
I was thinking about you talking right now. I was thinking about Anne Hathaway promoting the idea of You, and like how upfront she was about what kind of movie it was and like why she did it. And I'm like, why are we asking her these things? Like, let her do what she wants. Like, I don't understand, but I feel like that only happens really with like people that are like Anne Hathaway, that like started in like comedies and got an Oscar and then like went back to like populist like type of films. I'm like, why are we asking these women this? We're not asking like all the men this. Like,
no, we are not. No,
ridiculous. But yeah, I agree. I love her earnestness. Like, it's, I don't know. And she gives us such range when you look at her filmography from this moment on too. Like, she doesn't just like do movies like this or just to go back to movies that are like, she does everything.
Yeah. She is in The Dark Knight Rises and Les Mis in the same year. So
who else? Who else?
That's not right. She's playing Catwoman and Fantine. Like, who else could do that? Anyway, I think Rachel getting married is, I don't know if this is a hot take, probably not, but I think it's her best performance. And I wish she got more roles like this, because she is clearly capable of them. Just the level of just like emotional pain and self-loathing even, I think is very, very raw and not something I would have suspected she could do based on her history up to that point. But yeah, I think it's also really smart casting, honestly, because there is a certain like theatrical element to this character as a person and how she always kind of needs to be the center of attention, and she feels like an outcast and just like her energy is too much for people. And it's just kind of fascinating to watch this, you know, normally like princessy, bright energy type of thing that Anne could have in this era, and then put that into this very like jaded and blunt and like almost burnout type of character. You know, even when she's like first reuniting with her dad at the beginning and like talking shit about her sister hoarding food and like saying she never beat that habit, and just like really not caring about how other people are going to take things, the things she says. It's just very much like I don't even care. I've run out of energy to do the whole like polite small talk thing. Like she's been through too much. And I don't know, it's just really fun to see her taking that just like too much energy into this kind of role. You know what I mean?
It's so funny. It's kind of like if you like I am a very social person, and when I get to like I'm like frustrated with like being social, I feel like I don't act like that, but like you know what I mean when you're like you're gonna
Right.
snap. It's so funny because I'm like
Yes.
I think that's what people think Anne Hathaway would do because she's so like and all these people were like coming after her and I'm like she would never, but it's funny to see it like from that point of view, like this is like the
Yeah.
opposite of her, but this could be how she would react if she read all this stuff online.
Yes. I hope that her team protected her during this era because
I feel like they had
it
to
was
because
rough.
she's
Yeah.
she's still so like she gives us so much and she's also so honest, but also so like this is how I got to this point. So,
Hmm.
but I love that's why I
Yeah.
really love this performance is because it's like it's not anything I really ever thought she would do, like ever. Some of the things she says, I'm like, I cannot believe Anne Hathaway is saying this, even though I know it's not Anne Hathaway saying it, you know?
Right.
It's just crazy to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah, I know. I think one of the first things she even says to her sister, which is like kind of a half compliment, but not really, where she's like, I would swear to God that you're puking again because of her weight. And
Yeah.
it's interesting watching the two of them, her and Rosemary DeWitt, who I think is incredible too,
So good.
just like sinking into these roles and how they both kind of have like a weird neurotic energy in a way that makes them very believable as
Sisters.
sisters.
Yeah.
Some of the same mannerisms and like speech patterns. And with Anne, like there's a real like a manic depressive sort of sensibility that feels very authentic to me, just in the sort of rapid speech patterns of like having so much on her mind. But then you also have like this, shutting down, almost like the melancholy of like looking out the window at one point at everyone outside preparing for the wedding, and she just feels like so out of, like, she doesn't belong here,
It's
you
a
know?
really great portrayal of like depression and how like you can't no matter how hard like how much you want to be a part of something like she does clearly is like longing to be just like part of her family enjoying this like time for her sister despite how they all feel about each other but she just cannot do it and it's like a
Yeah,
really great exploration of that and I feel like it's one of like maybe like four modern movies that I feel like really gets it and but like her like
right.
looking out the window is such a good like she wants to be part of it she just cannot and Anna's so
Yeah,
great in that
yeah. Also, I think the direction with Jonathan Demme, just all the blocking
the
with
blocking.
showing the differences between her and the rest of her family is very, it doesn't insist upon itself, the
Hmm.
direction, but you can really just feel it based on the separations that we see throughout. And I think the moment where she realizes that she's actually not going to be her sister's maid of honor anymore is really great. There's such a look of like mortification almost and bitterness and feeling like, well, this is another shitty thing I have to deal with. But also, like, I didn't think my own sister would be the one to do something like that against me, and just, openly confronts her in a very aggressive manner. And I think the brilliance of the film and, Jenny Lumet's screenplay too is that you do understand it from both sides. You get why Kim would feel very betrayed by this one relationship that she seems to really probably value the most of all her relationships, but you also get that like Rachel wants things to go smoothly because it's her big day and she wants to be the princess and be the center of attention for once, because it feels like Kim, there's a lot of energy that's been poured into like making sure she's okay, and Rachel doesn't really have that a lot, and she just didn't think she could rely on Kim, even if that means hurting her sister if she actually did show up, which she thought she wouldn't.
It's a really great sibling movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so real in its portrayal and like you were talking about like the balance of showing like both even though it's like Kim's like the lead, but it's like it's so interesting to see like the way they balance the like showing the perspective of both sides and like understanding both sides. And like I think about it all the time with movies that because my favorite movies are always characters that are horrible. But like showing like an empathy for them and like showing like where they're coming from and their frustrations and especially like even if you're not close with your sister, like everyone envisions being their sister's like maid of honor if you're like the only sister, especially. And it's
Right.
like I don't know, it like really hits hard. And then I obviously was younger when I watched this, and like watching it as I got older, and like I like my friends have gotten married, and like seeing like them have to make their sister the maid of honor, like even if they
Yeah.
didn't want to. I was like, this is crazy. Like to know like the strength to make that decision. I feel like it's actually really well portrayed here of like the thought process
Mm-hmm.
of her being like you were saying, like this is the one day like that is about me. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
about you and protecting your feelings. But
Right.
it's really well done, and the screenplay is so good.
Yeah. Where was the nomination?
Where was it?
But another great scene, I think, is the rehearsal dinner, which
Oh,
is just unbearably awkward, but a really great ensemble scene too, with all the toasts and everything. And there's just like she's just sitting there, Kim, and it's just like there's this real like anger that's almost building inside of her as she just sits there and watches all the nice little pleasantries of everything, and she takes the mic and just kind of word vomits for like 5 minutes. It's
I can't
insane. Even the
imagine as an actor getting to do that because it must have been so fun to sit there and fume and like air like just
I know.
the anger radiating off of her until and like as the audience like watching it, I was like it's like a horror movie almost like watching it through your hands.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see what's coming, but I obviously need to. Like
Yeah. I mean, her big introduction is I'm Shiva the Destroyer and your Harbinger of Doom this evening. It's just so wonderfully awkward, and just she just spirals and makes it all about herself, and she's like trying to say she's making amends and just going off on all these tangents. And I think the worst part is like seeing how her family and the other people start to just like not even want to look at her,
it's
especially her sister and her
so
mother.
bad. It's
And you
so
know exactly
uncomfortable.
what they're thinking. Yes. And Kim just doesn't, she's kind of just in her own world because she's off on her monologue. And even though it is so like cringeworthy and you almost want to leave the room, I do think there is actually a real power in what Anne is doing there as an actress, just like really exposing herself in such a vulnerable way and just like staying in that awkwardness and then just like doubling down the more the speech goes on. I can't imagine even acting in that kind of scene. Having everyone around you like be so mortified by you even speaking.
Literally like they physically don't want to be there, and like I
Yeah.
can't imagine as an actor like look like just like looking out and everybody's like on like not watching you, not like
Yeah.
it's so I can't imagine. It must have also just been like such a amazing moment to watch it back and be like we really did, like we really got it, because it is so it's I've never been in that kind of situation, but it's like it's exactly what I imagine the
Oh
palpable
yeah.
energy of the room would feel like. Like it's so painful. It's horrific, but also just it's some of her best work like ever.
It really is. Yes. I'm also thinking of like the Kristen Wiig in Bridesmaids with that whole like toast that she gives.
Oh my gosh,
Um
that combined with Kirsten Dunst in Bachelorette, just like put them all
Oh, sure.
together.
Ugh, ugh, yes. But then obviously the tension of the conversation at the house where Rachel just fully unloads on Kim for making it all about her and the whole back and forth there. And of course, Rachel then changing everything by saying, "Oh, I'm pregnant, by the way." And everyone is just like screaming and they're so happy, except Kim, who just is like, seriously? It's just like
Like
rolling her
one
eyes.
day, just give me one day. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's so the energy of just that whole thing is so as a sister, I would really be fuming. Like, and they really capture that. Like, I can't imagine having to deal
Mm-hmm.
with like, but it's such, oh, it's so good.
Yes, really is. And also the AA scene right after that, I think is such a knockout for her where she is talking about probably why her family is kind of made her a black sheep, which is when she was 16, she was babysitting her younger brother and she was under the influence and she drove their car into the lake with him in it and he drowned. And there's just so much like I said, like self-loathing there. And she says she can't forgive herself. And she even says like she can't believe in a God who would forgive her. And I feel like a scene like that could have easily fallen into like a cliche type of trauma type of thing. But it's very, very raw and coming from a real place of just like, this is something that this person has to deal with every single day of their life, and they'll never fully be over it. And she can't forgive herself, and that is just, that's it. And the pain of having to deal with that.
I think about that line all the time because it's like it's never felt like I've never seen a movie really, like you were saying, like a lot of the times when like movies depict AA or people coming to like express like their trauma that they really like hide behind like
Yeah.
their big personalities or whatever, it does
Right.
like get really cartoonish and just like not real. And this felt so real. Like I felt her self-loathing and her like
Yeah.
refusal to like move on from this. And I think about it all the time because it's just like it first off coming out of Anne Hathaway's mouth is just
I
so
know.
like I don't think they know. I mean, I'm sure they do, but I feel like it's really like important to see like someone that we all grew up with and like these like comedies like deliver something like that. But it's just like it's so palpable, like the I don't know. It's so awful, but it's so also just like right after that scene, like you're talking about, like the cut
Hmm.
to that is just so heavy and like you can feel just like her imbalance of emotions and how hard it is for her to like just even get up and go show face. Like it's really hard. And I don't know, she's so incredible. And just this whole movie is her just being such a vulnerable actress. And it's so exciting that they actually acknowledge that because I don't see that many people doing that. And I don't see that many people in Hannah Hathaway's career trajectory doing that. So, like you were saying,
True.
she needs to do more movies like this.
Absolutely. I mean, she doesn't have anything to prove. Like, we
Yeah.
know she's a great
Yeah.
actress, but it would be nice to do something super duper challenging like this again. One other line also that really stays with me actually is there's this whole thread of like they go to the beauty salon and Rachel finds out that Kim has been lying about her backstory at, rehab and everything. And Rachel finds out about it. And it's just extremely embarrassing, awkward moment. But then, Rachel confronts her about it at home. And the line that really hits home for me is when Kim says, "You weren't inside my head when I was fucked up." And just like talking about how she could be Mother Teresa from here on out and it wouldn't change what she's done or how she feels, and it's a very moving scene in her performance and in the writing too, just like really beautifully written. And you can feel the despair there and how it's hard for her to rationalize to people who don't experience what she's been through and her thought process, why she did the things she did and feels the way she feels. And yeah, it's just like, on the surface, she seems like such a flawed and difficult person to be around. But then you just get these layers and layers, and they just, I think, enrich the performance the more it goes on.
Yeah, it's a really interesting like the screenplay is so interesting that it's like exploring like all of her family is just like you're impossible to be around and like her being like you don't have to like you don't know how hard it is for me to be around me and like think about all the decisions I've made now that I'm not that person anymore. Like I still did those things and I have to think about it all the time. And it's
Yeah.
so the Anne is so good with this screenplay. It's crazy.
Hmm.
Where was
Yeah.
the screenplay nomination now that we're
It's
diving into
it's
like
absurd.
specific
Yeah.
lines? I'm like, oh my God. No,
I
and like
know. I know.
the structuring of it all is just so well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the whole wedding sequence and her feeling very isolated at the wedding reception and everything is really, really tough to watch. But then that final kind of hug between the two sisters at the end, I think, is just a perfect sort of bittersweet moment. Especially when Kim says, "I love you, baby," and they may not see each other for a while, but like they have kind of gotten to a better place now, or I don't know if it's better, but just like
Not as
more
bad.
more truthful, I
Yeah, more
suppose. Yeah,
truthful, more truthful.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like this is actually a really like people who are always talking about like weddings are the best. I'm like there's like they're not. They're really stressful, especially
yeah.
like if you're not like close. And I think this is like
Mm-hmm.
the hug really like communicates that like it's like this is like a temporary kind of like relief because like this is a very emotional
Yeah,
experience in general on top of their history, but it's so, I don't know. It felt like crushing and then they hug and I felt like, okay, this is like a little relief, even if I know like it's not exactly like it, like you're saying, it's more truthful. It's
Yeah,
not like
sure.
completely healed, but it's
Right.
like it's a really it's so good. But it is
Great
like a
movie.
really great movie
Hmm.
about like how awful weddings can be when you're not
Yeah.
totally there.
It's a great source of conflict. More movies
Yes,
should be about weddings.
I agree.
Bride Wars.
Bride Wars, but
Speaking of Anne,
like meets Melancholia. That's what this is.
that beautiful pitch. Yes. So if that doesn't sell you, audience, I don't know what will. Um, okay, shall we move on to our next
Yes.
nominee? Alrighty, another big one, Angelina Jolie in Changeling. Another leading actress like Anne Hathaway, Angelina Jolie, movie star, only has this one lead nomination as of now, and supporting actress win before this. So Angelina Jolie, of course, born in Los Angeles, daughter of John Voight, Oscar winner himself, and Marcelinde Bertrand. But her parents separated at a super early age, and she lived with her mother and actually took an interest in acting sort of organically and studied theater in high school and tried to break into the business as a teenager. Her first real breakthrough was Hackers in 1995, which is kind of a cult favorite, and was developing a bit of a reputation as like a punk outsider type, cool, like goth kid type of thing, and started leveling up further in the late 90s, where she won a Golden Globe 2 years in a row for George Wallace and Gia, and more film roles in between, not a lot hitting really until Girl Interrupted in 1999, where she plays this kind of like sociopathic character in a mental hospital. It's a big performance, very showy, and gets her a lot of attention and pretty much sweeps award season, Golden Globe, SAG, Oscar. So from there, she starts appearing in much bigger commercial films, Gone in 60 Seconds, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, second Lara Croft movie, Sky Captain: The World of Tomorrow, Alexander, yeah, and then Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which kind of kicks off another big era of her career because she falls in love with her co-star Brad Pitt and they get married and lots of tabloid coverage from there, and she starts appearing in fewer and fewer films as the relationship goes on, but the late 2000s are still a pretty good time for her creatively, where she's doing blockbusters and she's doing this more like prestige fare, Beowulf, A Mighty Heart, which she almost got nominated for.
So close.
Yeah, Wanted. And then with Changeling, she's working with Clint Eastwood, who actually has now directed quite a few actors to Oscar wins by this point. And this was a highly sought after role. But Clint thought that Angelina just had the right look to play a woman in the 1920s. This is based on a true story of Christine Collins, a woman in Los Angeles who lost her young son, Walter. And when the police informed her that they had found him 5 months later, she realized to her horror that the boy returned to her was not, in fact, her son. So Angelina plays Christine, and we see her trying to convince the police that this boy is not her son, but they keep insisting that he is, and that she's is still in shock and delusional, but she keeps insisting on it. So the police chief, captain, sends her to a psych ward. And the film kind of is exploring the level of corruption within the police force and the other institutions at that time. And so she's just trying to desperately get to the truth of what happened to her son. So, thoughts on Angelina Jolie overall as a movie star, an actress, an icon, everything she does as a person, and her performance in Changeling?
I grew up very emo, so to say I grew up loving her would be the
Yes.
understatement of the year. Her red carpet look, always being like leather pants and just like a cotton tank top, was
Yeah.
everything to me for the longest period of time.
Hmm.
But I still love her so much. I love all the work she does, like outside of acting, like all of her humanitarian work, everything she does is so special. And
Yeah.
I just want to shout out, she wrote a beautiful op-ed about her experience having like the breast cancer gene. And I don't think a lot of
Mm.
people talk about that because it is a very, my mom had breast cancer, and if she had
Mm.
found out she had that gene, much earlier, then she could have avoided ever having cancer.
Wow.
But I really love all the work she
Hmm.
does, and I think that it's hard like looking at her career because you're like she's such a great actress and she takes all this time off. I'm assuming because of her relationship. But she seems like such a great person and such a strong person, and I'm very excited for her big leading moment this year that we're so close to.
Hmm.
But
Maria.
Pablo Larraín, let's get him directing A Woman to a Win. Let's do it. Like
Third time's the charm.
third time. But I love her career. It's very bizarre. Like looking through it, I was like, this is such a strange collection of movies. I love
Yep.
her win though so much. I am not like a huge fan of like giant performances, but I think she's so good in Girl Interrupted, especially like I
Yeah.
rewatched it a few months ago and I was like, this is just, I don't know. It's such a special performance, and I was really excited. She kind of like swept that year in her
Yeah.
beautiful long black hair at the Oscars.
Hmm.
But I think it's so funny like looking at the timeline for this of it being like Kung Fu Panda, like Beowulf, which like Beowulf my high school took us to go see because we like were reading it and then it came out and they were like, let's go see it. And I was like, why are we watching
Yep.
this? Like um, that weird animation. I don't know, so weird.
Robert Zemeckis. Yeah.
Such a weird I can't even.
I know.
But Alexander, it's so weird.
Hmm.
Alexander's like such a hot cast and just such a bad time at the
Literally.
movies.
Yeah. Yep.
Same thing with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like hot
Yeah.
people, terrible movie. But that whole press thing was just absolutely insane to live through. I'm glad that she'll be remembered as the more famous one. Um, but Changeling is so interesting because I remember watching it when it came out, and I was like, "What in the Joan Crawford? What are we doing here?" Like it's so big, it's so a lot of
Sure
going
is.
on. And I remember like 2 years before this came out, I had just watched my dad's set of Perry Mason, so I was like, "Oh, this is like." This
Wow.
is what we're
Yes.
doing. What is Clint
That's who
up
she
to?
needed.
Yeah,
That's who she needed.
that's
Perry
who she
Mason.
needed on the case.
Yep.
But I it's really weird rewatching this now. I am a mother and this really like affected me more on a rewatch. Like
Mm.
I had never watched it again, honestly, since the first time I saw it when it came
Sure.
out. I saw it, I think it was like I don't remember what month it was, but I saw it. It was like sold out, and I lived in Dallas at the time, and it was like sold out. Like people were excited for like her being a leading. It was like remember like her being on the Today Show and stuff. Like this was like a big
Oh
like
yeah.
return to she's doing prestige stuff again. Like we're back.
Working with Clint Eastwood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it
Big
was
deal.
the big rollout. But I just remember being like not like I was like, this is not the acting that I identify with here. And
Yeah.
I'm not a Clint Eastwood fan, so there's a lot of decisions here that I was just not feeling on the film level. But rewatching it, like she is so good in this, and it's like it's obviously very big, but it's
Yeah.
like I think a lot of it was lost on me when I think I was, how old was I when this came out? I think it was 15 or 16. But
Hmm.
it's I mean it went over. I was not the actress judger I am today. Um, but
Yes. That's fair.
I don't know. Like she really does work well in the era, so I agree with Clint there. Like, and I think that's
Hmm.
something we all talk about iPhone face, but I think the real problem is like people get work done to their face and it's impossible to see them and without that existing. But
Yeah.
she really fits in this era and like the accent work and just like the way she moves her mouth is really interesting.
Hmm.
Like people talked so different then and it's like she really
Right.
does do it properly. And I think about like she really does like have this like look in her eyes the whole movie. And it's like people always say like a mother just know. I mean, it's like part of the whole thing here. But it's like she really
Hmm.
does have it in her eyes. And I think it's so interesting, like rewatching it. I was like, I just really did not see it. Like she really carries her with like a grace that's never pathetic. Like she treats her with like such respect and like and it's also like Angelina, I think they had 6 kids by now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like there's like
So,
the added weight of like she really
oh
knows.
yeah.
Like and
Hmm.
I don't know, it's a really great honest performance. It's just very big and there are parts of the film that like do get to like torture porn at times for me. Like it's too much. But it is
It's a
like a
lot.
true story. It's just great. It's horrific, but I do think she's really great in it. And it's like a really strange moment of her career. Like it's so weird,
Yeah.
such a strange time.
Hmm.
I hated seeing him next to her rewatching the introduction. Um,
Yeah. Also
but
nominated that year.
also nominated.
Yeah.
So
Benjamin Button. Yeah.
what a
What a
time.
time. Yep.
Um, but I don't know. It is like you're saying, like it was such a moment for her to have like her first lead actress nomination, especially like
Yeah.
she is like I think she's one of like the only people I would consider like a modern movie star that has that weight behind her that's also like a major celebrity like outside of all that. Like her persona is very interesting and I don't think like we talk about her as like a established actress that much and it's like looking back
Yeah.
at it I was like it was really special to see her like have this like moment again because I do think people like moved on from her wins so fast and just like she became
Yeah.
something that was not centered around her career. So it's really
Yeah.
exciting to like
Lara Croft.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was, yeah.
It's really
Sex
exciting to
symbol stuff.
see
Yeah.
this moment. And it's
Right.
like you're saying, like she was like really high. I mean, and a lot of it is the way like her team really leaned into it, but it's like she really was pushed as like a sex symbol. And then it was like, no, she's a mother. And then it was like, no, she's
Yeah.
just an actress. Like let her like women can be all three.
How
But
dare you?
how dare. But I don't know. It's really interesting. It's not like my kind of performance, but she is way better than I initially gave her
Yeah. I
credit
agree.
for. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because, like, for me, Angelina was not someone that I had, like, the strongest relationship with during this era. I certainly liked her a lot and thought she was very cool and had an incredible, unique screen presence, you know,
Yeah.
and this sort of, like, otherworldly beauty, you know, but I wouldn't say I was, like, the biggest fan. Didn't hate her at all, but just was like, I like her. She's cool. She's unique. That's kind of where it ends. But what has been interesting for me is like her absence from the screen over the past like 10 years has really made me miss her a lot. And like whenever she does pop up in things like Maleficent or even like something like Eternals, where she's not even the biggest role, it's like, oh my God, this like incredible magnetism and charisma. And it's like, this is what is missing from so many of today's movies and movie stars. That's just like, you can't teach it. It's like either you have it or you don't. And she just
She
has it.
when Nellie Leroy said that, she was talking about Angelina Jolie.
That's exactly right. She knew. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you can see why Clint would be like, you have the glamour, you have the elegance, the face, the skill to like pull off this very openly emotional, earnest performance. And I do think she nails it. I think this is a performance that, like, there are a few this year that are divisive, you could say, from this nominee list. But for me, I think she's really, really good. And it's another one where there is a real emotional depth, like with Anne Hathaway. And even though there are times where I feel like maybe the story and like what's happening to Christine starts to sort of overshadow her being afforded the opportunity to really like craft like a really complex character, you know, I do think she nails what is asked of her. Like she does have this incredible glamour and the period specific hair and like the red lip even, just like these sharp angular features. She really does fit as like a woman of the 20s, at least how we kind of envision that from the movies. You know, it's a very like Gloria Swanson,
Mm-hmm.
Joan Crawford type of thing, but it's just at the same time, it doesn't feel dated to me. Like, I think she threads the needle between giving us that old school style and also not making it laughable,
Yeah, exactly.
which is tricky. Yeah.
It's so funny. I can't picture who I would want to make. Who directed the reboots of Perry Mason? I don't know. Get them on the
I don't
case.
remember.
but I love I love the reboot of Perry Mason, by the way. R.I.P. But yeah, it's really interesting. She's far better than the material. And it's like
Yeah.
it's such an interesting true story. And I know, especially at the time, Clint was on such a big return, you could say.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but it's just frustrating, like especially like rewatching it. I was like, there's just so many moments she could have done so much more, but you can tell it's like the film itself is holding her back, or like you were saying, like
Yeah.
the story itself is overshadowing like
Yeah.
what she could be doing. But it's like I can't think of who else I would want to make it, but like I don't know. I'm just not a Clint Eastwood person, and it's like painful rewatching like anything he's made. But like
What did you think of the cinematography and the lighting? Because that
it
is
it
divisive
it
also.
it is well, first off, I watched it on my laptop, so it was far worse than they
Oh
ever
no.
intended. But awful. It like it's it's like it's like someone was like I don't want to say something super offensive. It's like someone
Okay.
it's just it feels like a project at film school for first year students being like, this is what the 20s were like. It's not like,
Sure.
especially when I looked up the budget, I was like, so did it all go to Angelina? Like,
Probably.
weird. Like, I'm so because it's the same. Like, actually, I do like the costume design at least. I think it's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
But her hats.
I love her hats,
I
the
love
little
her
flowers
hats.
and everything.
So
Yeah.
good.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there are some like storytelling decisions through the costumes that are really interesting. But yeah, the cinematography, the tint, if you will,
Yeah.
it's a time. I mean, I guess like this time period we were experiencing a lot of tints, and Clint Eastwood loves a good tint, loves a good tint on his films. Um, Clint tint.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, it's not for it's really funny also looking up like the other nominations this film got. I was like, this is the one film that should have been like instead of Rachel getting married, this is the one that should have been solo nomination. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was for a while, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, I got this random like production design
yeah.
nomination." I think it was. Yeah.
We love a
Which
good wooden
okay.
we love a good wooden courtroom.
Yes.
We love
Yeah.
the row of houses from the 20s that they use in every movie in Los Angeles because it's all that's left.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Look, it's Clint. He has to turn him around fast. You know, we can't spend
Also,
too much time on anything.
funny to talk about Nellie Leroy because they use those houses in Babylon.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm envisioning it now. Yeah, so for her, I mean, like at the beginning, it's like going through the expected grief of losing her child. But I do think she is very empathetic
Mm-hmm.
in that grief. And just, again, her face, her eyes, especially, like even her voice, like when she calls the police that first time to report a missing child and she really kind of disappears into herself and is like going through the motions of her life until that 5 months later moment where she finds out her son has been quote unquote found. And again, I think a lot of it is sort of playing out in a very expected way until the moment of her seeing this boy who claims to be her son and the police are saying is her son, but she knows it's not. And just the look on her face, such disappointment. You know, it's even more so than like an anger. It's just like she's been gaslit so much in this way, but they're so insistent that like this is your boy, and the boy is saying, "Remember me? I'm Walter." And it's at a certain point, it's like she's so desperate to just like move on in a way that she's like fine, and she kind of just like gives in and takes the photo, and kind of is like admitting maybe it was just me being in shock that it doesn't look like him at first, but maybe I guess it is. It's just yeah, you could definitely like call this movie gaslight as much as
You could.
1944 version.
It's
Truly.
so funny to talk about like she uses her appearance in such an interesting way here because it's like she hides, like you're saying, like so much. Like she
Mm-hmm.
really like hides into herself where she's not like
Yeah.
Angelina Jolie, but it's also like part of the like movie. It's like they're not hiding how beautiful she is. Like it's part of like the
Yeah.
like it moves
True.
around the it's such an interesting performance. But it's so funny. I was just rewatching the Michelle Pfeiffer Deep End of the Ocean, where her son goes missing. And I was
Hmm.
like, these are such
Yeah.
different. These are such different perform. It's so funny to like the moms who lost their children. But she's really just so empathetic here and just like so there are so many scenes where it's like the weight of what she's doing, you can like feel it, but she makes it seem so effortless at the same time. Like it really does feel like
True.
natural, and it's so especially like within a period piece and like movies set in this era, like the acting is so big that it's like hard to remember that is how people talked, that is how people acted. Like, but she does really walk like a fine line, especially with the material she's given. This is such a horrendous screenplay. She does what she can.
Yes. This screenplay not robbed.
Yeah, not robbed
um,
here.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, a lot of it starts to feel a little repetitive. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know how many times she says, I want my son back, but it's like at least double digits. But she does have that one sequence that I think is probably the most remembered part of this film and performance, where she's got that, mystery boy claiming to be her son and screaming at him like at the top of her lungs, I want my son back. I want my son back. Damn you.
I remember it being in the trailer, and I was like,
Yes.
it was like the trailer played ahead of everything before it came out. And I was like, I can't hear this anymore. Like,
Yeah,
like
I know.
it was a lot. But she is really
Yeah.
good. It's just
In the
like
context of the film, I think it's effective though.
but it's like one of those things, when like it like the like you see it too much, and by the time you finally see it,
Right.
you're like, does it lose its steam? Because like I spent 6 months, and at the time we were watching trailers for like the way that it felt watching the Deadpool trailer for 3 months is the way like but we would actually watch them for like 9 months.
I
Like
know.
it was a lot. Like it was so much. But it like you're saying, it does really work in the context of the
Yes.
film. It's just like outside of it, we were like, I get it. Like I get
Yeah.
enough
I
claim.
mean, I will admit, watching it this week was like, that part does take you out a little bit because it is
Yeah.
so famous. But I tried to be like, okay, I see within the context that it works. And just, she also has like this almost like natural, like hoarseness in
Yeah,
her
yeah,
voice
yeah.
at a certain point when it gets to a certain level where
And
like
it
her voice
feels
breaks.
so real because it's like she is breaking. Like she doesn't want
Yeah.
to yell at this kid. Like she just really wants her kid. And it's not like the
Yeah.
kid's fault. Like she just wants her kid. And like the frustration and like the like just it's like a vicious depression like really comes through. And
Yeah.
it speaks volumes to like her as an actress because that is not the material.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I think like the first hour or so, it's good stuff. I like it a lot. I think over time, the film weirdly doesn't give her a lot much more to do compared to the first part of it. Like when she goes to the psych ward, it's a lot of just her just kind of taking things in and like talking to different people. And it feels like she just doesn't get that much room to do a lot more, if you know what I'm saying. I don't
Yeah.
know what your thoughts are on like the whole middle section and then the trial and then like all of that stuff.
It does feel really like the 3 act structure is like very apparent with like the way her performance
Yes.
is laid up. Like it's very like segregated of like these are her emotions in this part. These are her. It's very compartmentalized in that sense. And it's
Yeah.
weird. You can like feel her wanting to have more to do. It's just like not giving her anything.
Yeah.
But like, and it's like the film itself, like obviously it feels very like you're saying, like we've seen this all before. And then like when the twist, if you will, that it's not her son, it's like
Hmm.
that's when it gets really interesting. And then it goes straight into like, oh no, like we've seen all this like kind of business before. But
Yeah.
it's so frustrating because it's like a really crazy true story. It's just like obviously we've adapted so many versions of parts of this story into other films
Right.
and shows. But I do think it's like the structure of the screenplay that makes it feel so, and it's like we're talking about like she's Angelina Jolie. Like I want to see her like have this like room to be the actress that like we know she is. And like there are glimpses of her like later in the film. But I think it's like the first like hour, it was like, what are like, where is the what are we doing here? Like, I get it.
Yeah.
She's going to all these people. I get the motions, and it really doesn't give her that much to do until faux son. I don't like faux son, like I don't know what I call him, but the boy.
Yeah.
It's Brahms. When he shows up.
Right.
But,
This
but
random street urchin. Yeah.
it's really just like frustrating to watch, like especially like we're talking about, like she takes such a break from acting. It's kind of frustrating to see her like have a movie where she's the lead and it's a dramatic performance, and it's like she's not really given a lot to do the entire
Right.
film. And she's in
Yeah.
the entire film. So it's not like a movie where she's like we'll talk about with another nom or another
Yeah.
where like
Yes.
she's not in the movie like for extended periods of time. Like Angelina Jolie is the movie, so it's very
Right.
frustrating to like have these like moments where there's just like nothing for her. But I know people
Yeah.
will yell at me that that is part of the story because women in this era did not really have the ability and capacity to
Yeah.
be in charge, but
Right.
it's a movie. I want to see Angelina Jolie have the room to act.
Yeah, I agree. Especially when it feels like there's an element of this that feels very like studio
Mm-hmm.
glossy in a way. It's not just like this hardened, super realism sort of look at this case. Like it is very like
You know what's
studio.
really interesting is did you watch the Perry Mason like reboot on HBO?
I did not.
Okay,
Sadly, I did not.
I actually think you would like it. It's
I've heard it's
really
great. Yeah.
yeah, it's really like it gives the case like the room to like be evaluated in a way like you wouldn't really think
Mm.
about. And I would really
Hmm.
like to see like this story kind of told like that. I mean, obviously that's long form storytelling, but it's like
Right.
it's really weird that it's not really about the case, but it's also not really about her either. Like it's such a weird movie, like when you think about it like that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I do think maybe that speaks volumes to like, and obviously we weren't ready. This is a studio movie. This is a big, but this was like a big movie. Like it was really
Hmm.
pushed like big. But we obviously Hollywood was not at this point at the time, but it would be really interesting to see like what a female filmmaker would do with this story.
Definitely.
Like, and this actress still like just remake it with like another
Sure. Yeah, she
like
could still do it.
she could still
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
But it's really there is like a like this the studio thing really like looms large over like this is
Hmm.
it's a really dark, demented story to like take on. It's like it came out of the holiday. Like it's like it you know
Take the
like
whole family to see Changeling. Yes.
but like it is bleak. Like we were talking about this whole lineup, all these movies are bleak. But like
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's really interesting. It does hold the story itself back, but it is really frustrating again to think about like it's not really about her. It's not really about an investigation into what happened. It's just like this happened to this like
Yeah.
it's a weird
And then this happened, and then this happened, and then this
yeah.
happened.
It's like a
That's kind
Wikipedia.
of
It's
what it
the
is.
art
Yeah.
the not no not to be mean, but the screenplay is kind of laid out like a Wikipedia
Yeah.
article of these
I know.
events, which is weird because I don't think a lot of people knew about this story before
No,
the movie.
I certainly didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could have been a really interesting. See, they should just do Perry Mason season 3. Let them do it.
This is the theme of this episode.
I'm sorry. It's
Advocating for Perry Mason. I love it.
I just need I need Matthew to have another Emmy. I just need it so
I
bad.
know. Love him.
Love
Yes.
him.
But I do feel like this would be a limited series if this were greenlit today.
For
Just
sure.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
For like Apple. Yeah.
well, not anymore. They're cutting back.
Oh, right. That's
They're
true.
cutting
I
back.
forgot.
They're going from 20 million an
Yeah.
episode to
True.
15 million.
Okay. Well, Clint could do it.
Clint,
On a budget.
what was the budget on the mule?
Yeah. So I did just also want to note that it is funny that both of her nominations involve her going to a psych ward. It's just interesting to
I
me.
wonder if that's a record. Like, is that a?
Are we going to see that with Maria? Does Maria Callas ever go to a mental hospital?
Oh,
at
I
any
don't
point?
know. I actually don't know. This is actually the first Pablo biopic where I don't know anything about them, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I kind of am indifferent if I should research her or like watch the movie first and then research after. But I'm so excited for her. This is like, I don't know. I feel big things for her.
I agree. Yeah. So I think it's a very, very good performance that is evoking its era and feeling modern at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish the film gave her more to do. But I do just want to note this totally random part at the end of the movie out of nowhere, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, where her coworkers are talking about going to a party where they'll be listening to the Academy Awards. And this is 1935 that this is happening. And she said she put her money on It Happened One Night winning Best Picture, which, by the way, wasn't actually called Best Picture at that time, but that's fine. But then she's like listening to the radio and they're like listing off the nominees, and they say Cleopatra is one of them, and she's like, Cleopatra overrated. And then of course It Happened One Night wins, and as she says, never bet against Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. To which I say, so true.
So true.
But like, love that this is randomly included at the end here, showing like, actually Christine Collins is like a secret Oscar buff. Who knew?
She could have been a guest on your show.
She could have been. R.I.P. Christine
I
Collins,
wonder if
one of our first Oscar prognosticators.
I wonder if that's something like people knew. Like I've never looked into her like outside of the case, but like it feels so like maybe it was like somebody who knew her was like she really loved this movie or something. Like I don't know. Like
yeah,
like a way to honor her as a person outside of like this woman who was traumatized.
Right.
Really interesting.
It's so randomly specific that it's like
so random. Like it's
yeah.
You know when you watch a movie and like they're like highlighting what year it is, like the most awful specific. Like I was like,
yes.
But why are we doing that at the end? Like it makes no sense. Like it's so weird, and it's also just like not her personality. Like like
she's very tapped in.
Like, how did she have time to know about? Also, is this when it was rumored that Angelina was going to like play Cleopatra? Is this like around?
I remember that was happening at some point, but like I don't know if it was as early as this, but
like
yeah. But
very
that
weird.
is a funny irony. Yeah.
It is. It's so funny. And I also remember because It Happened One Night's one of my favorite movies ever. And I remember I was like I was the Leo meme before the Leo meme, you know? Like I was like, oh. But it's literally, and I forgot about it, like, and then rewatching it, I was like, why is this not one of those like out of context Twitter clips? Like, it's because no one watches this movie to remember that this happens.
I'm gonna make it.
You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it because it's really funny. Like, it's so. I don't know.
I think it's just like in the screenplay they were like, oh shit, we forgot to give her like defining features outside of her wanting her son back. We have to make her like a secret Oscar buff at the end and show she has like other interests.
It's so fun. It's so random. I was literally crying, laughing, thinking like, oh, this is, and like the opinions. I'm like, what did Cleopatra do to you? Was it
so
overrated? Like, why the shade?
I'll tell you one thing. It's better than the 1963 one.
Yes.
But she wouldn't have known that at that point. Anyway. Yeah. Just, and the fact that it's like 10 minutes before the end of the movie. Anyway, it's just wild.
It's so bizarre.
So, an odd movie, but good job, Angelina. We hope to see you back in the Best Actress race soon. Hopefully. Soon. Yes. Hope it's not a bomb. Okay. Let's move on to Melissa Leo in Frozen River. Our third and final introduction here. Melissa Leo, yet another actress this year who has this one lead nomination and a supporting win. I don't know if I had ever really put that together before this week, but that's just like kind of wild that we have these three nominees with like the same Oscar record.
That is really weird.
Yeah. Like they all won supporting, these past three people we've been talking about, and they have this one lead nomination.
That is so weird.
Yeah. So Melissa Leo, born in Manhattan and interested in acting from childhood. And she studied acting in London and at SUNY Purchase. She made her acting debut on the daytime soap All My Children, for which she got a Daytime Emmy nomination. And she kind of toiled away through the 80s until she got a gig on Homicide: Life on the Street as a main cast member for 5 seasons. Eventually, she has a sort of minor breakthrough in film as part of the cast of 21 Grams, which she is very good in. Don't like that movie, but she's very good. So she's becoming a real like journeywoman character actress type in the 2000s. Lots of supporting roles, things in like Hide and Seek and Mr. Woodcock. And then she gets this great showcase lead role in Frozen River, which is the directorial debut of Courtney Hunt. And it's an indie movie that premiered at Sundance, got great reviews, which kind of sustained her through the year to get this nomination. So she plays Ray Eddy, a woman living from paycheck to paycheck in her trailer in upstate New York with her 2 kids. Her husband is a gambling addict who has just abandoned the family, so she has to work even harder to provide for them. She really wants to get them a new double-wide mobile home, but her husband's taken off with the money that they would have used, so she is desperate. And one day she discovers this Native American woman named Lila, played by Misty Upham, driving her husband's car, and that leads to a confrontation and ultimately an opportunity that Lila presents to Ray to help her smuggle immigrants from Canada into the US and sort of, using Ray's whiteness in a way to help them evade detection. And because Ray is desperate for money, she agrees, and they go on quite a journey driving immigrants and trying to evade detection from customs and police. So yeah, Melissa Leo, another fun one to talk about here. What are your thoughts on Melissa Leo overall and her big breakthrough here?
I love Melissa Leo, and like we were kind of talking about with Anne Hathaway, I love her personality. I actually agree with people get so hung up on how she won her Oscar later on, and I support her. Her studio did not support her. I support her.
Consider.
It's so good. Like, we are so mean. We're still talking about it.
Yeah, people still reference it whenever anyone campaigns for themselves,
Like, she has an Oscar. It's so, I don't know. I love All My Children, so I love her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not anymore, but I would watch it all the time. But she's such a thrilling actress. She was on Law and Order the same year she was nominated for an Oscar. What are we
There you go.
That is so incredible. But she has a real commitment, I think, to working and being in as much as possible. And yeah. I love actors like that. It's so funny looking at Anne Hathaway, she had really not done that much, and then she had 7 or 8 things where she was of prominence, and it's Melissa Leo had 9 million credits by this time. Obviously
right.
older, but it's she was just working. And I don't know,
she's an actor's actor.
Yeah. And she kept her SAG card busy. But I don't know, I think it's really exciting, and I absolutely love when movies from Sundance get someone nominated. It's such a journey, and it's so exciting. Yeah. And directorial debut, getting the screenplay nomination was so exciting. It's also weird rewatching this. I haven't really seen her in that much recently, and I was I miss her. She has a great presence. I think the last thing I really loved her in is Prisoners, and it's so scary.
It's a decade ago. But yeah.
It's so scary.
She's incredible in that.
Yeah. So good. She really disappears into things in a way physically and just her performance in general. She's one of those actors, she's very different in everything she's in. She doesn't ever feel exactly the same to me. But rewatching this, I was it's such an interest. This category is just so mean to mothers. My God. But it's a really bizarre movie. I can't believe it got 2 Oscar nominations. It's so wild. And this was one of the first years I was really paying attention. And I remember reading on I don't even remember what website it was, but it was some forum of her getting all these critics groups, and it was real moment. She really held on the whole season, and it's always so exciting when something like that happens, because it's now we're so in it and we have so much information at all times. But back then it was not really the same as it was now, where you could just find a Twitter account and they would tell you who had it all.
Like yourself.
Yeah, I try.
You could do that.
I try.
Yeah.
But I love her in Hide and Seek also. I love that movie. I remember that movie was such a big deal when it came out, and I'm this is so random. We have a movie with Robert De Niro and Dakota Fanning. It is so random. Her filmography is really interesting, but this was such a cool performance to see nominated, and it's like such a like I don't know, it's so heavy and just like the plot
Yeah.
is so weird. Like listening to you like read like a log line for it, I'm like,
I know.
this is such a weird and like rewatching it, I was like, this is so not what I remember. It's really interesting, but she's really great in it. Like she's so good. And she has like really great like screen presence and chemistry with everyone and she interacts with so many people in this movie. But it's really interesting. It's a really cool nomination. Like I think because she won so soon after and like first and like her campaign was such a big debate that like people don't talk about. This is such a cool first nomination. Like
It is.
it's
Yeah.
really thrilling. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's a fine movie. It's
Yeah.
it's fine.
Better than the movie. Another
Yeah.
one,
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah.
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 Yeah, Melissa Leo obviously not on the same star level as these other four, like I said, but talk about making the absolute most of this nomination, really launching herself into a new phase of her career with The Fighter 2 years later, just like running the table with that award season, basically just because she advocated for herself when the studio didn't. It's like really, I love stories like that. And like a year after getting an Emmy nomination for Mildred Pierce and winning an Emmy for guesting on Louis. And she's just done some really interesting work, like you said, Prisoners, and even like a small role in The Big Short. Like she's just kind of popping up in these random places and doing like these action thriller type films like The Equalizer. It's like
The Equalizer. I was like, what are we?
I know.
But it's the
I feel like
thing. She just loves acting. Like I
she
love
loves to act.
actors. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you want to be in a movie like that? Well, then you do it. Like I don't know. It's
Yeah.
so cool. More
She's
people
not
like
too precious about it having
Mhm.
to be like the perfect role
Yeah.
every time. But yeah, been quieter as of late, to your
Mhm.
point, But yeah, she's a great actress, especially when she's restrained and internalized like
Mhm.
she is in this film. I think, as an actress, she can get a bit
Big.
operatic at times, I would say. But this is a really, really good performance, very down to earth, raw, and is like, she just reads very authentically
Mhm.
as this kind of woman, like a blue collar woman.
Yeah.
I mean, like the film, like I noticed at the very beginning, really sets her up right away as like, she's a hard bitten woman. We linger on her face, and she has like the chipped nail polish and like the cigarette and just like this exasperated look on her face and just like this tear rolling down her cheek. And it's like, oh my God, this is an incredible introduction. But it's just like she can play these people of this background, like the country, so well that it's never any doubt that like she is this person. It never feels like this is a Hollywood person
Yeah.
pretending to be a redneck or like a person in the country type of thing.
Yeah,
So
it's never like a
that has to count for
caricature.
something.
Yeah, it's never like a
No.
caricature. It's like, and it's never like, it's not even like that it's empathetic. It's like she's like in it. Like it's never like she
Very much
really
so.
transforms into it. And like you can like you're saying, like it feels like you're like being dropped into someone who's like it's like the life she's
Mhm.
portraying is the life she's living. And I think that it's not really like
Mm.
something you see a lot with actors, and especially like we were just talking about, like the whole like it's not iPhone face, but like just like the way people transform themselves to look better. It's like it comes across very phony when people like have to be like someone who's like down on their luck. And it's like it doesn't feel like that at all with her ever,
No.
especially in this. Like I believe
Mhm.
her that's part of what makes her performance work so well, is that like you're really grounded in it from the beginning, like with her character. Like you're already in it, you already know like how she like it's very interesting.
Yeah. And it never feels like an obvious
Mm-hmm.
acting showcase, even type of role. Like, this easily could have just been like if the screenplay was a little worse or just more mediocre than it is. I feel like this could have just been like another forgotten indie that she made, that
Mm-hmm.
nobody saw. But I think it's on the strength of, I think the script is better than Changeling. I'll say that. It is good in its own way. And I think her performance really brings it to life so easily. And I love just the way that she interacts with people, and it's very blunt and kind of like quick-tempered in a way, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just like she's gotten to this place in her life where she's so exhausted from raising these two kids and having this deadbeat husband, and so it's like she doesn't really have time for like
Yeah.
niceties or
Yeah,
anything.
exactly. That's so funny. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. It's not exhaustion of like physical, like I'm not sleeping enough. It's like I'm exhausted from all these things that I've been like, it's like one thing after another. And it's like you
Yeah.
can hear it in her, everything she's saying. You can see it on her face, like the way she like carries her body too. Like it's
Yeah.
not just like physical exhaustion. It's like I'm emotionally drained from all these things that have been thrown at me for the last like 20 years. Like it's too much. Like where's the
Yeah.
break? Like she really does a great job of like the physicality of portraying that.
Exactly. Yeah. And just the elements themselves, it's kind of like a rough
Mm-hmm.
type of area, so it's that just makes it worse. And just like that stubbornness is so exacerbated by when Lila is stealing what turns out to be her husband's car that he abandoned, and she tracks her down to the mobile home and like takes a gun out and starts shooting at the the home. It's just really wild. And I think there's like Lila says at one point, like, you're on Mohawk territory, and like they don't take too kindly to like shooting into people's homes. And Ray just is like sasses right back, like, this is New York State, so quit the bullshit and give me my goddamn keys. And again, like there's something so in her voice, like so weathered, and just her
Mm-hmm.
facial expressions that are so accurate. Like I've known people like this in my life, just like a lot of like my parents' friends kind of have this sensibility, where it's like you don't want to mess with them because like they will fight back even harder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it just really works. Plot wise, perhaps it is a little like a lot is going on here because like neither of them are at a place of being stable with their money, and they're desperate. And so Ray kind of agrees surprisingly quickly to this
Very
whole
quickly.
plan.
Very quickly.
I was like, did I miss something in the dialogue or something that indicated that she would be like, oh, sure, I'll help smuggle immigrants into the country for you?
Like so quick. I did not realize how quickly. Like I'm like, are we like what am I missing that we're just like agreeing to like do something super illegal like so
Yeah.
fast with someone you don't know? Like
Yeah.
it's very bizarre. I was
Someone you were just shooting at a minute ago.
yeah, you're like, let's do that. Let's partner up. Like
Yep.
let's do
Mhm.
crime. Let's rob.
Yes, exactly. I want to rob.
I would love to take her to see the bling ring.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so it's interesting. You know, I sort of get it from Lila's end and like why she wants to, because like again, Ray is less likely to be stopped by customs. But from Ray's end, it's like such a leap, I think, and agreeing to it very quickly. But I guess like it's sort of implied just that like, you know, she's basically on the poverty line, and she says like, oh, I might be promoted to manager, assistant manager at this dollar store that she's working at. But it also feels like you're kind of deluding yourself,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
to a certain degree, where it's just like, you know, people may say all of these things, but, you know, let's be honest, it's not going to go that way, because we know how things work in this town. And it's confirmed when she asks the manager to be promoted full time, and she just gets pushed back from him, which is like really shitty for her to hear, and she's embarrassed to even be asking. But yeah, I guess that's sort of what leads her to continue doing this with Lila. It's just like, again, a wild sort of like, it feels like it is missing a bit of connective tissue, I suppose.
There's definitely a deleted scene somewhere.
Yes, I think so. I mean, what do you think of the sort of relationship she has with her kids, especially the older one? Because I think it's interesting, like, you know, the whole argument that she has with about the older kid being like very defensive of their father. And there's this line where she's like, here we go again with Saint Dad.
It's so funny because there's like a weird balance in like a lot of movies where it's like the dad is out of the picture, like barely in the picture, of like
Yeah.
mom's like not defending, but like not being fully honest about like the way they feel. And this is such a funny like she's just like, no, your dad's like it's so
Yeah.
like it's so interesting. It's so And I think like it's really refreshing to like go back and see this because I feel like a lot of movies,
Hmm.
like the moms are always like still protect because they want that like balance or whatever. She's like, no,
Right.
like we're in this
Yeah.
situation because your dad is your dad. It's
Right.
really it's really interesting and her delivery of a lot of like like jokes, if you will, of like their like his relationship with them is really like it's really good. And it's really like selling the frustration, but like she's kind of removed from it because she's accepted it and it's just like the way it is. And she kind of wants her kids
Yeah.
to also just like get on board with like he's not participate like he's not we're here because of this. It's
Right.
really interesting. Her delivery sells a lot of it. I think that it's there's also like she does like a thing with like just like the look of her eyes of like you can see what she's thinking and she's not saying it. Like it's really
Oh
funny.
yeah. Big
Like
time.
and I
Hmm.
think like anyone who has like talked to their mom, even if like they have a good relationship with their dad, like there are things like your mom like never lets on about her relationship with your dad that like you see the look in a mom's eyes and like she does that so well so many
Oh
times
yeah.
while also still like aggressively being like your dad. Um, but the I do think a lot about like her being like, oh, here we go again, because it's like
Hmm.
it's so funny, it's so honest. It's really interesting though. I her performance really sells so much of it because it's like she is a mom. She this movie really allows her to like have be all these things and not they're not like it's weird they're like impacting the other decisions in her life, but not really. Like she's like most people
Mm.
would be like outweighing like I'm a mom, I can't be committing these crimes, but like that's not even a blip of a thought.
No.
It's really interesting. It's a strain. It's she's such an interesting character to be like set up that way, like where it's like
Yeah.
it's her being a mom is such a huge part of it, but not really because it's like it's not impacting any other decision she's making like at all. Like she wants to support
Yeah.
her children and like have money, but it's not like she's doing these things the way so many movies lay out. Like, I have to feed my children. Like, it's, I just want money. Like, I don't want to live like this. Like, I just want to live
Yeah.
like with a roof over our heads, the double wide.
Yeah. Right. I think she is just like in survival
Yeah, yeah,
mode,
yeah.
basically, through so much of it. And it's just like, I don't have time to think this out. I
Yeah,
just have to go. Like,
yeah,
it's Christmas tomorrow. I
yeah,
have to get this money before
yeah.
I, yeah, can pay for this double wide. It kind of escalates quickly. I don't want to go into too many details of the plot necessarily because it's just a lot,
This
a
movie
lot going
is
on.
so much
But
going on. Like, so
yeah,
much. There are so many
yeah, I don't want
like
to get bogged down.
layers.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a lot.
Yeah, because like there's a whole part where they are taking this Pakistani couple who have this duffel bag with them, and she's like trying to ask them what's in the bag, and they don't understand, of course. And she makes this comment of like telling Lila, you know, they want to come here so bad, they should take the time to learn English. And it's just like making these very bigoted comments about how she's like hoping this isn't like the kind of couple that want to blow themselves up. And just like that prejudice is what leads to her chucking the duffel bag out the window, not knowing that there is a baby. It's like the couple's baby in there. And it's like she's too proud. Like you see it in her face to admit that she was wrong. But she just kind of is like, ugh, I guess we have to go back, you know, kind of like out of duty. So it's just like she is a very flawed person, flawed character. But again, it doesn't feel condescending, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. It's like this weird balance. It's not condescending. It's also not mean about her, but it's not empathetic. It's such a strange balance. Like where do
Yeah.
but I do like I was saying, I prefer movies where it's like the main character is just like horrendous. Like and it makes
Hmm.
the stakes feel so much higher because I don't care what happens. Like
Sure.
and especially like a
Fair point.
movie like this, like it's like I like you're watching it and you're like, I don't really care what happens to her. Like I wanted her to not be so financially burdened, but like there are so many things she was saying, and you're just like, this is not someone I'm rooting for at all. Like it's it's an interesting, it's also like a very early 2000s kind of movie, like thinking about so many of the lines. I'm like, we would not have this in a
Yeah.
movie right now.
Yeah.
Like there's
No,
so
no.
many.
And this doesn't feel too long ago, and yet There are
It
moments where it
does.
does feel
Yeah.
like it was an entire generation ago. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a good performance. I don't think it's an all-timer by any means. I think probably it's the one performance of this group that has stayed with me the least
Hmm.
after watching them, to be honest. But, nominations like this for like hardworking, non-glamorous actresses, I always love it.
Yeah.
I always enjoy when it happens. Like, the Mike Leigh actresses like Brenda Blethyn and
Hmm.
Imelda Staunton, things like Samantha Morton, Laura Linney, Joan Allen, that
I was
type of
actually
thing.
thinking so much of Laura Linney, like rewatching this. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It just like really reminded me of something she would do. I was like really like
Yes.
thinking of her. And I was like, but I love nominations like this, and I love
Yeah.
like the Sundance to Oscar nomination pipeline is so
Mm,
thrilling every time. And
love it.
like, I don't
Because it
know.
feels organic,
Yeah, and like we don't really
Yeah.
like, especially when you have like Meryl Streep in the lineup. Like, like it's
Right.
like that feels
Yeah.
monumental, and like
Hmm.
it's exciting to see her in this mix, especially like the kind of
Yeah.
performance and just that entire campaign to get here.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Well, let's get to our final losing nominee here. Speak of the devil, Meryl Streep in Doubt. So Meryl Streep gets another Oscar nomination here, extending her lead of all acting nominees ever. And this is a landmark nomination, her 15th. So to update what's happened with her since The Devil Wears Prada 2 years earlier, she is riding high from that performance, but 2007 is kind of rough. She's in actually 4 movies, so she's keeping busy, but none of them really hit. None of them are very well reviewed. We have Dark Matter, Evening, Rendition, and Lions for Lambs, all getting mixed to negative reviews. Not many box office hits in that group, but she bounces back in a big way in 2008 with Mamma Mia in the summer. Smash hit. She's great in that. Very fun performance. And then Doubt, the prestige thing, in the winter. It's a very, very fun combination there. So Doubt is an adaptation of the Tony-winning play by John Patrick Shanley, and this is him adapting his play not only as a screenwriter, but also as a director. So Doubt is set in the 1960s at a Catholic parish school in the Bronx, where Father Flynn, Philip Seymour Hoffman, is a well-liked priest by the students, but one person who doesn't particularly care for him is Sister Aloysius, Meryl Streep, the principal of the school, who doesn't really like his more progressive ideas. So Sister Aloysius runs her school with a very classic fear-based approach, and she is suspicious when a boy kind of recoils in Father Flynn's presence, and then her suspicions seem to be confirmed when one of the teachers, Sister James, Amy Adams, comes to Sister Aloysius with an incident she witnessed of Father Flynn putting a shirt in a outcast boy named Donald Miller's locker, and also discovered the boy had alcohol under his breath when he returned from the rectory, which makes Sister Aloysius believe that Father Flynn may have been sexually abusing Donald, perhaps, or at least been inappropriate. So she makes it her mission to get him to admit to it. So this should be an interesting one to discuss. I know this is also a performance that is divisive for people, but thoughts overall on Meryl Streep, the legend, and her performance in Doubt?
I love Meryl Streep so much. And this is one of my favorite years of her career because I
Yeah.
love Mamma Mia so much. And I think that, like, obviously it's easy to like brush off Mamma Mia, but she's incredible in that. And then to do this like in the same year is just insane and like just
The
shows
range.
the range. But she's just such an exciting actress, especially like if you think about it, like this is her 15th nomination. She's still turning out like work that's so varying and just like exciting to like dive into. It's so thrilling. But my parents grew up where they filmed The Deer Hunter, so like at an early age.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents were like
Hmm.
very like you have to watch a Meryl Streep movie. So I love her. I love this performance. I think she's so incredible in it. And like obviously rewatching this, it's just like actors, like capital A actors. Like this is
Oh, yeah. Big time.
it's incredible that we have this movie with this collection of actors. And it takes my breath away like seeing like her and Amy Adams, and like Amy Adams is so incredible in this movie. And I think like they're the way their characters are written so differently. Like seeing them interact is so exciting. And then obviously Viola Davis just being
One scene wonder. Yeah.
it's incredible.
Hmm.
Because it's just such an incredible scene. And obviously Philip Seymour Hoffman is just terrifying, but also like I grew up Catholic and it's like the way that like these stories were always told, it's like you see the charisma, the like leadership of it all and like the doubt, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's such an actor's movie, and I'm not really always a fan of movies that are like plays adapted into features. It doesn't always work, especially when you have someone writing and directing it that's like that's their background because it just doesn't always translate to film. But I do think this one really does. And like there are some incredible shots of just like the blocking of the characters in this film. But I really
Hmm.
like her performance. I think her accent is so great. I think she really nails down like the Catholic school dictator, but like it's really like an interesting performance because you don't really see characters like that really expressing concern over behaviors that are like you don't really see it, especially with like Catholicism. So it's really
Yeah.
an interesting performance and a way to like tell that story. And I it's interesting, like thinking about other actors playing this role is because like we have so many famous actors who have played this role.
Hmm.
But she makes it like her own, but like you feel the real like this is a prince, you know what I mean? Like you feel like this is like
Totally.
that stereotype of like a principal, like and the way she would run it. But it's also like
Hmm.
Meryl makes it so unique and interesting. And she does just so many things like her mouth, like I mean she always does, but like her mouth and just like her like I don't know, especially like watching this like after you watch The Devil Wears Prada, I'm sure you watching these back to back is just crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's really interesting. Like just the physicality of like what she does and like she does a lot of like her pout in The Devil Wears Prada and then like to this it's like such a different expression and like such a different obviously a
Mm.
different time period but it's like she really like transforms in such a way that like not many actors really do and it's like
Yeah.
really fascinating to watch and like I it's crazy thinking that so like I don't know this is one of those ones I'm not going to tell anyone how to feel but I'm like how are we arguing over like Meryl Streep in this movie? Like she's so
Yeah.
good. I don't know. Like really like it's so incredible to watch and like it reminds me so much of like I don't know, like we always talk about like Heat with like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro finally having their like sit down and it's like the palpable energy between like her and Philip Seymour Hoffman is just incredible. Like I
Scorching. I
it's
know.
it's so thrilling to watch. And it's like I've actually seen this movie like quite a few times because I went back and rewatched it after Spotlight came out because I was just like really on the
Oh.
Catholic guilt trip.
Hmm. Yep.
But I was like, it's I don't know, it's just so well done and just so it's like a really good exploration of like faith and how people like hide behind it, but also like how it guides their lives and how they live their lives and like people who are not excusing things because of faith. It's really interesting and she does so much with it. And like she's one of my favorite like physical and internal actors. Like she really has that balance that's just so I don't know. There's a reason she's Meryl Streep. Like, I don't know. It's, I could talk for 9 hours about her. I think she's so incredible. And I cannot believe she did Mamma Mia in this. Like, it's so
I
crazy.
know.
It's
It's insane. Just like the openness and the freeness of her playing that character and then this being
this
so internal and
constricted.
closed off. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, I can't imagine. Like, I want to know what her in between prep was. Like, what did she do to like
I know.
go from one to the other? Like, I can't imagine.
Right.
But she's so incredible
Yeah.
here and it feels really special to like watch this movie like and like knowing who all these actors become and like who we already have with Philip and Meryl
Yeah.
like it's a great collection and I think all the her chemistry with the children is really interesting like Like it's so I wonder what it was like on like I'm assuming like on set it was really interesting, but she has great chemistry with all of them. Like you can feel they're like scared of her, like in a way like you don't want your principal around you, like with the ruler.
Totally.
Like she
Yeah.
really like I don't know. It's really interesting, especially like just knowing like she's Meryl Streep. Like I don't know. Very great performance. I love this nomination.
Absolutely. I really enjoy her performance here. I think it is so just fun to
Mm-hmm.
see her really embracing this sort of like indomitable, powerful presence that she has at this point in her career and just like making a meal out of it and doing genuine character work. Like she does disappear into this role. It doesn't feel like Meryl playing some version of herself. Like it really is a character, especially with that very distinct Bronx accent, which is so thick and full of absolute sass and attitude. But she really nails that level of just like self assuredness that comes with being this very stubborn woman who has her certainty and knows she doesn't make friends, but it's like because she feels she's called to a higher purpose, essentially. And it's sort of like this, this conviction that some Christians and people of other religions too have that are very traditional and, evangelical in their beliefs, where it's like, I have a higher calling and I will fight for what I believe is right, even if it means pissing people off and making enemies and being a menace and meddling in people's lives, all because, other people don't subscribe to my belief system, essentially. Like, I really feel that energy is really channeled so perfectly here, and it's just such a delicious setup right at the beginning too, where it's just like her walking down the aisle of the pews in the church and just like watching all the kids' behavior and just the severity in her face. It's just actually a really fascinating spin on like her Miranda Priestley in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like playing someone with real gravitas and power and knowing how to wield her power and maybe enjoying that she has that power to sort of lord over people, no pun intended, because it's kind of like, this is all I have besides like her faith, obviously, but that's part of it. But it's like her personal life is like entirely non-existent, essentially. And to me, it's actually similar in terms of like a characterization wise, like a Nurse Ratched in One
Mm-hmm.
Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
Yeah.
where there's just like such a strictness, but you can tell that there's like a little bit of a pleasure that she's taking in having all this like responsibility and kind of like, again, lording over people. So it's just so, oddly enough, it's the most fun performance
For
to
sure.
watch of this group, even if it's such a
100%.
serious film. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's my dad went to Catholic school. And like I remember after he watched this, he was like, this reminded me so much of it. I'm like, this is so funny. It's just like but he was like, it's like
Yeah.
you're like the discipline and but like the pleasure that she takes of like it's like those people who complain about having no personal lives, but they like do it to themselves. Like it's really like it's that. Like she like that's like all of the scenes of like Amy Adams like updating her is like it's like that she
Hmm.
lives for like the drama within the like not
Oh,
obviously
yes.
obviously not the severity of what they're discussing, but like she lives for like drama within the workplace. Like it's like it keeps her alive, like
Yep.
she really does like such a good job of that. But
Hmm.
it's actually really a fun performance, like you said. Like it's so
It is.
there's like it's so exciting to see her just like really like restricted, but also just like really exploring all these different like emotions she has to process, but like she's still like stifling them. It's so fascinating to watch. And it's just like, obviously, I mean, I haven't seen this on the stage, but like it's just so funny, like seeing someone like Meryl Streep like really do this. It's so exhilarating. And it's just like,
Yeah.
there's no one like her. It's so good. It's one of my favorite recent performances of hers for sure.
Yeah. I love also whenever she is like laying out her code of ethics
Oh yeah,
basically and her
yeah.
beliefs to like Sister James, and she says something along the lines of like anything easy isn't worth doing, and she's like going off on this tangent about penmanship dying in this country and is like railing against the use of ballpoint pens, and it's just so specific and funny, and she clearly wants to induce fear in these kids by like having Sister James put up like a picture of the Pope, which, as she says, it'll only be scary to those causing trouble. I don't know. You can just imagine her like out in the real world being so judgmental and just disgusted toward everything she sees, basically. And she has like this sort of mythic idea of how things should be or how things were, and like wanting the country to perhaps be great again. Just saying. It's an interesting code of ethics that she has.
Those really unfortunately very good. But yeah, that's exactly. It's really crazy, like obviously like him like writing the play and then adapting his own work for the screen, like really is what makes this character so like every rhythm of her, because it's like he really tapped into her, obviously, and then like Meryl really just like steps into it and like brings such a specificity to like everything that makes her her. And then it's like you're saying, like this woman, like if you ran in like even modernly, like you would know like this exact personality type. And it's I don't know, there are just so many things she says, like the way she says them, it's so fun and so just dark, obviously, but but that's what makes it so interesting, that she's the one like investigating all of this and like looking into it. It's because it's like that's not the person you would really suspect to care about this. And it's so interesting that it's like a really fascinating flip on like the church and like the people in it. And like we were like, I mean, like there are so many movies and shows about like the church like turning a blind eye, and like this like flip of them like actually looking into it and like picking up on like little things, because it is like little things at the beginning that like set her into this. So it's really like an interesting story. And it's just I get really sad that I don't think we'll ever have like a big acting quartet like this film has. Like
I know.
it's unbelievable that we got to experience this like in real time. Like I think like now, like especially like because we don't have Philip Seymour Hoffman anymore, it's like really easy to like look back and be like, this was so great. And it's like, but I don't even think at the time we were talking about how great this was. Like, because we didn't know like Viola was going to become Viola Davis. So it was like really like, and now it's like in hindsight, it's so incredible. But it's such an amazing cast and ensemble. And like the film really utilizes them so well. Like even Viola just having like the one scene, it's like so well done. And like it's so good. And Meryl is just so good with everyone, obviously. But her scenes with Amy Adams are just so like that relationship feels so real. And it's also
so funny.
It's also so funny because it's like very real of like their careers also. Like it was like Meryl's like this dominating force. Like Amy Adams is like on the up of the time of being this like like seven, six. I'm
as of now.
We'll see. We'll see what that dog does.
Yes.
But it's like a really interesting like real portrayal of like them like in their like sisterhood, you could say. Like it's so good. I love this nomination.
Yeah. I mean, I love the scene where she she realizes what Sister James has revealed, what she has seen. And, it's kind of like she alludes to the fact that there's nowhere for her, Sister Aloysius, to really go with this information, because all of their superiors are men and they will protect Father Flynn. And there is just like this really subtle sort of bitterness in her voice that I think is very revealing, as she realizes the limits of her power. And she feels like she just has to tackle this head on herself and just try to get him to resign or admit to it or something. But again, there's like also a little hint of pleasure in that for her, in this idea of like her being the one to take him down, because she's also clearly she's been kind of questioning of him to begin with as that kind of like cool priest with his like newfangled advanced sermons and everything and his ideas, that it's like, yeah, I can go toe to toe with this guy.
You know what it's like? It's like I hated Matt Damon my whole life And and I had there was no reason. I just didn't like him. And when like bad
Sure.
things came out against him, I was like, I told you. That it
Mm-hmm.
was that I feel like everybody has
Vindicated.
one of those. Like you have like a coworker you don't like for no reason, and then like something bad
Mm-hmm.
happens, and you're like, I tried to tell you. Like
I knew it.
yeah, like she really conveys that, and it's all like internal. Like she's not really like telling us. Like I mean, she has like expressions, but it's not really like.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because it just like adds into that personality type of that older lady that like hates everything. Like it's
Right.
so it's just so well done. It's like the best balance of like the material being so good and the actor being so good, and it's like so
Oh
well
yeah.
pulled off, and it's just there are so many moments like that too, where it's like you see the wheels turning of like her limitations because she's a woman and because of the way the church is set up, but then also like she likes the ownership of like I'm gonna do this myself and like I don't need to
Mm-hmm.
go. It's so interesting. And I love their little rivalry beef that he's like aware of. And like him like leveling it
Yeah.
against her is so fun. It's so weird. This movie is obviously so dark, so awful, but there are like these like funny, like not funny, but just like comedic type of moments of like duking it out between them of like the way they go about
Yeah.
it. It's so, and that can only happen with like actors like this and someone who has like such a clear ownership of the material.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like so interesting even watching her reacting because there's so much of it is kind of her driving a lot of the action here. But like for example, the scene with Viola Davis as Donald's mother, which is so incredible just to watch the two of them playing off each other and Viola bringing such an incredible presence, but it's like such a different energy to the rest of the film.
Hmm.
But it really works. And I think for Meryl, like she really plays it in a way that's like I was expecting this mother to be as outraged and upset as I am. And it sort of like startles her a little bit that she was wrong about how she would react. And she kind of assumed that, like, okay, Mrs. Miller, she's going to be kind of like my key to the case. But she's not as predictable as she kind of expected her to be. And she kind of lectures her about like not acting the right way, quote unquote. But, as Mrs. Miller kind of explains, like she knows that her son is a certain way, kind of implying something about his sexuality, and like that is the reason that he's being beaten at home is because his father doesn't like that. And at least this, educated man is showing him some kindness, as she says. And Sister Aloysius is just like stunned into silence almost and is like realizing this is way more complicated than she had been making it out to be, And I obviously Viola is kind of the clear star of that scene, but I think Meryl in her reaction playing off of that is so on point with just showing how she's just grappling with all this and like trying to figure out in real time what is the next step,
Yeah,
you know?
it's such a good scene. And it's so funny like you say that. It's like obviously Viola's like the star of that scene, but it's like it's the only time we really see Meryl's character like not in control fully and like
Exactly.
it's like
Yeah.
unexpected and it's really like to see like those wheels turning is so different from the way she's like operating the rest of the movie. And it's like really just like the weight of the situation is really like it's so palpable in that moment of like she thinks she's protecting these kids and their parents would want that from her and like they don't like
Yeah.
it's really
Mm-hmm.
it's a really insane scene. It's so crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking to the another insane scene, to your point, the climax of her and Philip Seymour Hoffman is just like truly like live theater, just like exploding before your eyes between the two of them. Of course, her quote that I will have to recite, not as good as Meryl, but I will step outside the church if that's what needs to be done till the door should shut behind me. I will do what needs to be done, though I'm damned to hell. You should understand that, or you will mistake me.
Pretty good.
Which
Pretty
is such
good.
an obvious, yeah, thank you. It's a very obvious, like, Oscar clip
Hmm.
moment in the way she even is playing it, but I love her intensity.
Hmm.
I love just like the almost guttural tone
Yeah.
that she gets to. And it's just like, this is her like marking her territory in a way and like standing up to him. And it's her really trusting her gut and just like doubling down on it, even if she can't be sure exactly, which leads to her having doubts at the end. But I think that is a very human thing to do, you know? So
Yeah,
I love it.
it's like electric. It's like it's so good. It's just crazy to see two actors like that really going at it and the material be it's so funny too. Like this is like this and Rachel getting married are the ones where I'm like the material supports the performances. Like the screenplay is as good as the
Yes.
performances. And it's like it's just incredible to like watch actors get such great material to deliver and like them. And it's like obviously people who have seen the play like can know better, but it's like I really like the spin she puts on it and makes it her own. But it's like you were saying, like she's not Meryl delivering this like to us. Like she really
Right.
makes it her own, and it's like so unique and just so like you can feel all of the like everything she's thinking in the moment. Like she does want to stand up to him. She does want to mark her territory, like you were saying, but like she does still have this like unsure of the situation, like what like
Right.
it's she really carries that all through her voice and like her stance and her eyes, but she like really delivers the like message and like what she's doing. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's incredible. Incredible work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, the ending scene is very famous as well, where we have the two of them, her and Sister James, on the bench outside, and Sister Aloysius is like, she's clearly has this very dejected kind of look on her face, and she just looks spent, you know, after all this, because as she reveals, Father Flynn was transferred and actually promoted by the Monsignor. So, like, all of this was a noble effort, but ultimately kind of in vain, because he'll just go on to probably do more terrible things at another church, you know, in her mind, because it still isn't entirely clear exactly what the truth is, which I love. But she kind of speaks of there being a price to all of this. And it's just like, again, she's grappling with so much. And of course, she does say that famous line. She has such doubts, which I do think she lands. I think it could have been very clumsy.
Yeah.
But I think the way it's directed is a little overemphasized a little bit, but it is a great sort of a punctuation point at the end.
Yeah, I love that, and I love the framing of like he just gets promoted because it's like I mean obviously now people have seen Spotlight and it's like people are
Mm-hmm.
more aware of like the way the Catholic Church has been shuffling all these priests around and like just like elevating them instead of addressing the situation. But it really like
Right.
spoke to the people in the church who like were not like who knew what was going on and were trying to do something about it and just how they became so defeated in the situation. And it's like I read the dialogue and like the expressions on both their faces. Like it's really like well done and like expressing that frustration, but also like I want to keep doing this, but it's also exhausting and like mentally draining to keep doing this. And like, what am I doing it
Mm-hmm.
for if like no one is listening? And like primarily it was the women of the churches and the schools like speaking up, and it's like they had no say themselves. So and then like there's the added weight of like they consider themselves teachers, so there's like this protection they want to offer their children, and it's a really like it's a perfect combination of like the actors and the material just like really sending
Totally.
that home, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
effective to me.
Absolutely. Great performance. Really, really love it. I think one of my favorites of her modern era of
Hmm.
nominations for
I
sure.
agree.
Would have been nice if she had maybe won for this instead of the Iron Lady.
Would have been, definitely would have the trajectory of lives that would be
Yeah.
changed.
All right. Shall we move on to our winner?
We shall.
A lot to unpack here. All right. Kate Winslet in The Reader. Here we go. Kate Winslet finally winning her Oscar on her 6th nomination. I feel like we haven't gotten a true like overdue type of win in this category since like Susan Sarandon maybe in 1995, maybe like a Helen Mirren in 2006, but I don't know if that win was like seen as
Overdue.
overdue in
Yeah.
the same way that people were talking about Kate Winslet in this
Yeah.
era, which was like all the time. So following Little Children a few years earlier, she is, you know, just diving into these two films that come out in 2008. She doesn't have anything in 2007. So it's just The Reader and Revolutionary Road two huge commitments for her. And the latter is her big reunion with Leonardo DiCaprio, which got a lot of great early buzz. So she had these kind of dueling contenders here, and she campaigned lead for Revolutionary Road and supporting for The Reader, so as not to split her own vote. And she got nominated pretty much everywhere for both performances, but then the Oscars pulled off a little switcheroo here and nominated her in lead for The Reader, which bumped out Revolutionary Road because you can't be nominated for two different films in the same category. So either way, there was a lot of talk of this being her year and that it was finally time to reward her with an Oscar. So The Reader, it's an adaptation of a German novel by Bernhard Schlink, and it's about a German man named Michael who recalls a summer when he was 15 years old where he had a sexual relationship with an older woman, Hannah, who works as a tram conductor. And pretty soon after that, he realized she was a Nazi guard during World War II and was partly responsible for the extermination of hundreds of Jews. And he watches the trial and realizes that she has a secret, which is that she can't read. And that could actually help her in her case. And so Kate is playing Hannah in her 30s all the way through old age as she is eventually sent to prison. So let's get right into it here. Kate Winslet, I know this is another one that is even more divisive, especially as a movie, more so than maybe her performance. But yeah, tell me your overall thoughts on Kate and her big Oscar-winning moment here.
I love Kate Winslet. I think she's a really exciting actor. Also, I'm just realizing what's with us in German adaptations. All quiet.
No, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just a
I don't know why
thing.
I just realized that.
That's so funny.
But I think she's like such a thrilling actress. I love, like, obviously once I got more into like watching the Oscars and everything, it's like she's like a dominating presence because of my age. Like she like it's like as I grew up, she was just gaining nominations. Mm-hmm. But she's really exciting, and I think she makes like really interesting career choices, and she's just like a really unique kind of actress. Like I don't really think she's always the same, and she picks really like exciting projects that might not sound exciting to, I mean, like this is dire and so is Revolutionary Road, but like I don't know, she does like really cool projects, and I love the way she talks about directors and like her co-stars. Like she's really fascinating, and like I think her friendship with Leo is so sweet. Like I love like thinking of that side of him that we'll never know. I loved her nomination for Little Children. I love Little Children so much.
Same.
I don't think she had any room to win there, but like it would have been a much better win than this. I actually do really prefer, I don't like to like pin them against each other. I mean, like, but you have to here. I do prefer her in Revolutionary Road. I think it's like more,
yeah.
I mean, obviously it's like a louder performance, but I just think it's like a better performance. Her chemistry with Leo is really incredible, and that movie's just far more, not even interesting, just like a better movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's good in The Reader, and it's funny, like at the time I really was like, I was young, but I was like, is she, I was like, I don't think she's lead. Like I was like, what are we talking about? But like rewatching it, it's like you do feel her presence and her impact on the story when she's not on the screen. So there is like this argument of like she's a co-lead. It's just I don't really, it's really, she's just so much better in Revolutionary Road. But I get it. We can only do one. It's like a really interesting performance because there's so many, I feel like there's so many like reveals, like just so many like twists and turns to like specifically her character that I do understand, like especially like with the Academy at this point in time, like why this is the one they went with. And it's just like, it's funny now because I'm like, they would definitely go for Revolutionary Road, not this, which is so,
I think so too. Yeah.
Wild. But it's she's one of those people. I'm so happy she has an Oscar. Like I love saying Academy Award winner Kate Winslet. I love her speech so much.
I know.
Also, what do we think of the table at the table for her to put her Oscar on when she gave her speech? I'm not a fan of it.
Fine.
I like them hold.
I prefer
the holding.
Being more. animated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like on your last episode talking about the Queen.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, the
I
Queen.
still I still don't get it. But
Thank you. Thank you.
is the Oscar the Queen? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know what she means
I
to
need
this day.
I need someone to interview her for whatever weird action movie she does next to ask her what
Yes.
she meant. Like, we need an answer. I really don't. I don't get it. But it's like one of the it's such a career Oscar. It is such a, I mean, I'm happy she has an Oscar. And like, it's funny that it's like Leo's Oscar is also a career Oscar. And it's like, I know when I don't like, he was recently nominated for a movie I liked better. Like, it's funny that they paired up like that. But I mean, it's not to like take away from her performance. Like, she is good in it. It's just like, it's not an exciting performance. It's not even something I would personally nominate. Like, I don't know. And it's a movie I never wanted to watch again. And I rewatched it. I was like, I'm
so sorry.
I remember why I did not want to watch this again.
Yeah.
It's like, this is one of the most bleak lead actress. I mean, like, lead actress is pretty bleak all the time, but there's usually like one relief kind of movie. And this is just absolutely not. And this is like, I don't think this is the most bleak. It's just like the material in general is very dark and just there's no like, with Changeling, it's obviously more dark for like a parent to watch, and like Rachel getting married, it's harder to watch when you are like an ostracized sibling or like someone with an addiction problem. But like, this is just like bleak in general. Like, this is, and there's so many layers to the bleakness of it. And I do actually like her, and I'm not really a fan of like performances that like span a long period of time. Like, it's not my thing. But she is really good throughout the entire time that I think she's a little, but I do think it's like the aging that kind of bothers me more versus like her. But she is like good in it. It's just like, she was literally better in Steve Jobs. Like, how many years later? Like, we just waited a little bit. I don't know. But I'm happy she has an Oscar.
Doesn't matter what it's for. This is a complicated one for me because I also think she is good in the movie, but I feel like she also strangely gets so few opportunities to really deliver on her strengths as an actress, and it's such a closed off character that I really, really struggle to connect to her emotionally. Which is like, okay, you can still deliver a strong performance as a closed-off character, but I just think the fundamental story being told here is so ridiculous and misguided, and not to use a word that is overused by this point, but pretentious. I leave the film not really knowing what the overall perspective is, because to me it's very muddled. Like, it's sort of about grappling with, like, of course, the evil of Nazism, and also for Michael, like, grappling with the fact that this woman he developed such an intense connection to as a teenager was involved with this type of thing, and like reconciling with that. And also it's like sort of about trying to make you sympathize with Hannah for the fact that she can't read, and was like ashamed by the fact that she can't read to the point of going to prison before admitting she can't read or write. And the idea that like she may not even fully process what she's done. And also she's a Nazi who had an affair with a 15-year-old. So it's like a lot to take in.
It's like, and so many layers, and they're all not well executed. And then they're all like on top, it's very weird.
Yes, it's a very messily assembled cake, and I just don't think it ages very well. No. Plus, the actual direction by Stephen Daldry is so... This feels, again, sort of like shiny prestige, and in this case, I think I imagine sanding down a lot of the edges of what I imagine was a more compelling book, perhaps. So I think her performance is pretty good for what she's given, but it's, like, not even close in terms of like one of her best performances for me.
It's funny. I think it's her worst nomination. It's really frustrating. I mean, it's like, And we see it happen like more often, I think, and not in this cat. It's always the supporting, but it's just like it's so frustrating. Like this is what, and there was another movie this same year.
Another one. It was right there. Yep.
I really wish I knew more about like how they reached that decision because
well, they clearly just like the reader more. It's nominated for Best Picture,
which is crazy.
Which is a choice.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so strange. And and rewatching it, I really in my head thought there was more about like predatory aspect of it, and they kind of like skirt over it because they're like she can't read, and you're like she knew how old he was. like that has nothing to do with reading.
Yeah, that doesn't excuse everything. Yeah.
And it's very weird. And then it's funny because she's in Lee that's finally coming out. And I saw Lee last year actually, and it's like it's a really interesting span to go from the reader to Lee. The material that's covered. But it's a very weird. Speaking of a movie that would never come out now, we were talking about some of the one lines in Frozen River, but this entire movie, I don't even know, like, because I didn't read the source material, but I don't even know, like you were saying, like what was taken out of it to like, because the thing that bothers me the most about the movie is, like you were saying, it doesn't feel like a specific point is picked to like focus on. Like I don't know what I was supposed to care about. And it's like I feel like there are parts of it where they're like Nazism bad, and I'm like, okay, but you're like kind of making it seem like she's not bad, like,
right?
And I'm just like, I don't know, like, I don't know what we're doing. Like, it's really frustrating, and it's more frustrating because she's in another movie that we could have just done the overdue narrative for. That's like, I don't think Revolutionary Road is a great movie, but it's far better than this, and it would be far more exciting to talk about her win being tied to like this big volatile, like at least like I get it. Like it's
right. And having the historical factor of reuniting
Leo,
with Leo.
And like that was such a moment. Like, I mean, people went out to go see it. Like if that movie came out with any other actors, I don't think people would have been like lining up to see it. But like it was like a big thing to go to the movies to see them back together. Like they were doing all the talk shows together. Like it was like a thing. And I'm like, we just let that go for this? Like for her to be in a bathtub? Like it's
and naked a lot.
So much.
Very naked.
So much. And it's so funny too, because I'm like, you know, for like a lot of people our age, it's like Titanic was like one of the first like movies we saw with like new like modern movies we saw with nudity, and it was Kate Winslet, and it's like this. I'm like, why are we doing this? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. But once again, she has an Oscar, I guess
I mean, what do we think of just like the accent work and the voice and just like the overall mood? Because I think it's good.
Yeah, I think I love the level of her voice, like because it really like the internal of like her being embarrassed over not being able to read and like kind of hiding it for so long, like within the relationship. But like I actually really like her accent work. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And it's like not...
It was better than I remembered it being.
Yeah. I remember like thinking like it was really bad, and like it's not at all. Mm-hmm. It's actually really like unsettling that like how natural it feels. And especially like I feel like over the last like few years there's been so many movies where the accent work from like actors we love is so bad that I was like, oh, I don't know if I just lumped her in that box like accidentally. It's like really good. It's really like, you know, when you're watching something and you like forget that someone's doing like accent work, it's really just like, it's just, she does it. And it's like not like being put on. It doesn't feel, especially because her character's really like closed off and timid. It's like kind of harder because it's like a big accent that she's attempting like to do. And it just feels really natural. Like it's really interesting. It's just, it's like you were saying, the material is so confusing. The direction's so bizarre. The perspective is so bizarre. And I think she does a good job of like aging her voice, which I think like a lot of people don't really think about, but it's like your voice sounds so different over time, and she does it really subtly and like really like keeps the accent on top of the aging of it.
Yeah. And I think also there's this sort of energy she brings to it that is very German in a way, because she's very like curt in her line delivery, like very practical and to the point, kind of like these halting starts and stops kind of thing, not to get too technical with it, but it's not just that she's doing an accent, like it genuinely feels German inherently.
Yeah.
So I like that, and I do think she is very striking in the film, especially in that younger portion. So there's a kind of quality to the film where it's like, because it's from Michael's perspective, you can kind of see him being so intrigued by her, more as like a symbol almost than as a person, like what she represents and everything, just like this sexual awakening for him. So like, you know, there's a kind of enigmatic quality at times, like in the beginning, like she's holding a lot back, which I think is like disappointing from a material level for me watching it, because I want to see her go deeper into it. But movie wise, I get that she can only do so much, and she works well within that. So it's just a very sort of mixed feeling that I get from the performance by the end, where it's like I can see her really putting a lot of effort into making something very complex, and probably more complex than it is on the page, quite frankly.
I agree.
Yeah, just in terms of like really regretting, or maybe not regretting,
or
maybe not fully understanding.
It's weird that like Doubt has such a really great ambiguous ending of like, did he do it, like, or did he not? And this is like like, it's like I don't know how she feels about the situation, and it's like that's not what I want from someone who's tied up with Nazis, like, and like
right.
Like I don't know, and it's obviously like I don't know what the source material is, but it just feels real there. I don't feel anything about the movie or the story, and it's like that's not and that's not what you want with this kind of story. And it's just, I don't know, it's really interesting to actually think about those two like ambiguous endings and like what makes one work and what makes this one just feel so. And that's the other thing, is like I left this movie and I remember like never wanting to think about it again, never wanting to watch it again, so I was like, I don't feel anything, and that's not good. Like
no, not for a movie with these themes. Yeah, but she does have a few good, I think, kind of like chilling lines, like in the courtroom scenes that I did take note of, where she's just talking about like, hey, the fact that these people kept coming into the camps, and so she says the old ones had to make room for the new ones. And just like the way she just says it so matter-of-factly is just like, do you understand the words that are coming out of your mouth right now? And even the people in the courtroom are like, oh my God. And even when the judge is like asking her if she knew she was sending these women to death, and she kind of just like furrows her brow and is just like, well, what would you have done? You know?
That's actually, that was like something when I was watching it, and she just, anytime she does something with like her eyebrow or something, it's so interesting, because it's like, that's what I like love about her performances specifically, is like she does a lot of like eyebrow raising and like
eyebrow acting.
Yeah. And I'm like, I love that so much. But it's really interesting to see her use it here, not in like a movie star kind of way. Like she really uses it in a different manner that like I don't really see from her that much, because she doesn't really play like a lot of characters like this, you know? So it's like when they're problematic, they're like cheating on their husband. Like, you know, it's not like this kind of horrible person. So it's really interesting to see her use like things like the eyebrow, and like she does like a lot of like smirks that are like so awful in this, but like when she does it something else, it's so like movie star quality and like comforting and like sexy, and it's like such a different way she's like stretching her muscles here.
Yeah, and I think in her own way playing a real character and not having it feel like just Kate Winslet playing a character. So that is good. And I think her line towards the end, where she is in prison and finally meeting with Michael, and he's kind of questioning her about how she feels all these years later about what she did. And she says, it doesn't matter what I feel. It doesn't matter what I think. The dead are still dead, which is true. You know, it doesn't really matter how she feels about it, because what's done is done. She was involved in a genocide, and that is just the truth of it. And I think it's sort of implied that like she knows that there's no saving her, like there's no absolution, and she's just had a lot of time to reflect in there, and she just knows like there's no point in going on, like my life is over and that's it.
Yeah,
which leads her to take a certain action in the end. So yeah, it's just a lot. It's very heavy, and it's a lot to consider, I think.
It's a lot to
So,
unpack, and then it never feels like fully unpacked. And I also think like
yeah.
part of it is the like, and I don't mind movies where they present information and take no side. Like I don't mind that. It's just like this is one of those few subject matters where I'm like, I think you need to
Yeah.
do it. Like
Yeah,
it's
I would like to know.
yeah, it's frustrating, but I do like
Yeah.
her chemistry with like pretty much everyone on screen because she does have to do it like in a very strange way where it's like different actors playing the same character. Like it's like a lot to
Right.
balance. But she's really, I mean, it just speaks to her as being Kate Winslet. She's so incredible with everyone, and she really knows when to especially given the whole debate of supporting versus lead is she does like a really good job of when she's the focal point of the scene and when like Michael's the focal point of the scene. Like it's really interesting to see like the balance of it. And like also like you were saying,
Yeah.
like the film is from Michael's perspective. So it's like we're not seeing her the way she wants to be seen. Like it's a really
Right.
interesting point of view for an actor. And like she does really pull it off. It's just I wish the screenplay would like do something for how we should be
Yes.
seeing her.
Anything. Anything. Yeah. So, kind of a tough one for me by the end, but like you said, happy she has an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to talk about what it was for, even though we just did. Yeah, so let's just talk about this Oscar race here. So, for the precursors, this is obviously an unusual one because of what I mentioned before. She was campaign supporting for this and then lead for Revolutionary Road, but there were quite a few groups that sort of defied that categorization. There were a handful of critics groups that actually awarded her for both movies in Best Actress. But for the other nominees, Anne Hathaway won at the National Board of Review and a few other critics awards. Meryl Streep won an award. Melissa Leo won the Independent Spirit Award, of course. Classic Independent Spirit Award winner. Melissa Leo in Frozen River. Angelina Jolie was the only one to not really win anything. So then with the major precursors, it was, again, very interesting. Kate won Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, and SAG for The Reader, but they were all in supporting actress, which means lead actress was a mess because Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep tied at Critics' Choice. Surprise, surprise, we have a tie at Critics' Choice.
Well, they
won.
fixed that issue because now they just have 6 nominees.
Oh, thank God. Yes. More room for everyone. Yes. So Kate won another Golden Globe that night for Revolutionary Road in lead, and Meryl won at SAG. So then BAFTA kind of aligned with Oscar here, where they actually gave it to Kate in lead for The Reader. So then, when the Oscar nominations are out, when Kate is like mysteriously omitted from supporting actress, only to show up for The Reader in lead, everyone is expecting her to show up for Revolutionary Road. It was kind of like, what is this race? So very unique year. Why do we think Kate Winslet was our winner from this lineup?
I mean, it's just a career Oscar. Like, that's it. And I think it's crazy because even if she was here for Revolutionary Road, she would have just won for that. Like, it didn't, if she
Yeah.
was in the category, she was winning. Like, that was all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because I'm glad she wasn't in supporting, so we got that outcome. But like, it's like it didn't
Yeah.
even matter. Like, I don't even think because I really do think she just would have swept for Revolutionary Road, and then there was no doubt.
Yeah. I think this was one of those things where it's like there was so much built up in the mid 2000s, especially about like when Kate Winslet, when are you going to win an Oscar? Like, and it was clear based on a lot of her choices she was making that she wanted it.
Yeah, and then even like the conversation, like from what I remember about little children was like, is the material too dark? Because like it was like a
Yeah.
whole thing like that, and I was like, but they watched it and nominated it. Like, what are
Yeah.
we arguing? So it was like it was just a weird. I like she was always front of mind for everyone, and I think because of like Titanic and like all these other like she was like a movie star, but she was making all these like prestige choices that were like much darker and like much more out of like it wasn't like she followed up Titanic with just doing other big budget movies that like
Right.
led to Oscar. Like she was doing like dark movies that like were
Mm-hmm.
still getting her notice. So it was just a matter of time of her finding an Academy pleasing kind of performance. And it's so weird because on paper that's Revolutionary Road. Like
You would think.
It
You would
still
think.
is so weird. Oh.
And I do love that she never denied that she'd always been dreaming of this happening ever since she was little.
With her shampoo bottle.
With her shampoo bottle, yes. And I think there was just an appetite to just give her a win at some point soon in this time period because they clearly liked her, this being her 6th nomination when she was still pretty young. But I think they felt like it had to be for the right role. And I know people don't like this movie, and we clearly don't either. And I agree that it's very flawed, but I think this performance is, strangely enough, easier to latch onto and sort of hail as like, this is great acting compared to things like Eternal Sunshine or Little Children or Iris or even Titanic. Because like she's doing an accent, she's dealing in very heavy dramatic material. It is a World War II film in a way. Also the only Best Picture nominee in this lineup. It's like right down the line of exactly what they like to see at this time specifically. So it was, you know, her narrative plus this feeling that they finally had an excuse to give it to her, you know? And it also doesn't hurt that she was being pushed by the Weinstein Company.
Yeah, that was the other elephant in the room.
Yeah. I think most predictions that I found just from looking online said that it was going to be Kate, and that this, for as chaotic as the lead actress race was, everything was aligning for Kate, essentially. So will be interesting to see what we say, who the runner-up was at the end. But again, love her speech. Love that she got this beautiful reception in terms of like having all these actresses on stage welcoming her.
It's so beautiful, like rewatching it, like seeing like the like real, like, because she obviously has to hug Marion first because that's like,
yeah.
But it's like, I don't know, she just looks like really overwhelmed with each of them, and it feels really like special, especially like they each had such a heartfelt speech for all of the nominees, but seeing them like embrace her was like really, it's really like a special. And I like, I kind of
welcoming to the club.
Yeah, and I really love the idea that it like they did that and it was for someone who did win for an overdue narrative, because it was like, no, you're finally in the club. Like it was really sweet, and I love rewatching it, and it's like it's a really like beautiful moment. And then like we were talking about, I love people who acknowledge that they really wanted it. Like it's really like we all talk about these so like sports like and like whatever, but it's like it's a special moment that people work so hard for. And it's like I like when they show that side to it, because it's like obviously like it's deemed upon to be uncool to like want it, but it's like we know they want it. That's why they're like,
yes,
that's why they're at all these events. That's why they're shaking all these hands. Like that's why they're campaigning. That's why they're saying consider. Like this is their moment. I don't know. It's so sweet. And I love her like trying to find her dad. It's like really cute. Like it's so sweet. It's just really sweet. It was a great speech.
And I love her reference to being like, how crazy is it, like fellow nominees, that we're in a category with Meryl Streep.
One of my favorite like Oscar things is like people like Meryl Streep, and then like my second favorite is Olivia Colman being like Lady Gaga. Like
Lady Gaga.
It's I just love like the acknowledgement of how crazy it is to be nominated alongside Meryl Streep, because I'm like, what is it like for Meryl Streep? Like what is the like it's so funny. Oh, so good. Really like it's a weird win, but it's like a special speech. And like I love like when I go through my like, you know, like twice a year where I just like spend 7 hours watching Oscar speeches for no reason. Like I love when I get to hers, because I'm like, it's really good.
Yeah, very special moment. Okay, well, let's get to our many Twitter questions we got for this episode. I can't possibly get to all of them. Thank you everyone for sending them. I know there was a lot of questions for this year, but there's also people kind of asking a lot of the same questions, so I'll kind of combine a few of them. Let's start here with Darion Dominique Dion, who said, "This was my first year watching the Oscars. What was yours? Hashtag Oscar cherry popped."
Oh my God, that's so funny. I don't know. My parents watched the Oscars. Like, that's why I got into them. And my parents were like really into movies, which is the reason I like them so much. I don't remember. Like 2005 was really the first time I watched them, like making sure I like saw all the movies and whatnot. So
yeah.
What about you?
I think 2006 was the big one for me, actually. Kind of the Martin Scorsese of it all.
Yeah.
And the Little Miss Sunshine and lots of interesting stuff going on there. Yeah. I would say 2003 was like, if we're continuing this metaphor, like the first kiss with like Oscar. And then I was, getting warmed up in the following years. And then 2006 is like,
the Martin Scorsese,
we're going all the way.
The Martin Scorsese like domination of like being on like every talk show and the focus of like, is this his time?
Yes.
Like that was like, if you're even partially watching them, it like you were full in. You were like, this is the
yeah. I'm all in. Yep. Amar said, "Is this quietly one of the strongest actressing lineups in terms of the quality of the performances?"
I think like modern maybe. Because I think like we just don't.
Yeah.
Like I think like we were talking about when you asked me like what my favorite one is. It's like we don't really talk about like modern actress lineups that often. Especially like the 2000s, like not even 2010s. Like 2000s, like first off, you're braver than a Marine for getting through all these movies. But like there's some rough lineups. Like some like
no kidding.
Yeah. So
2005, I was in the trenches.
Like it's I think like in perspective, like they're all winners, so it's like really thrilling to look back on. I'm not sure like performance wise if it's.
Yeah, I think it's a good lineup. I don't think it's an all-timer necessarily, but like I like to love most of them, so that's has to count for something. Okay, Christoph said, "This is the most recent Best Actress lineup in which, as of today, everyone is an Oscar winner. Is there any lineup since which you expect to become an all-winners lineup someday?" I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say 2013, because that has Cate Blanchett, Sandra Bullock, Judi Dench, and Meryl Streep all as winners. The only one who hasn't is Amy Adams, who may well win relatively soon, for all we know.
I actually am like fully convinced she'll never win, to be.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Who was nominated? Kristen Stewart's here. Wait.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Who else was
there? Because that's Jessica Chastain, Olivia Colman, Penelope Cruz, Nicole Kidman. I mean, all of those are winners, so it would just have to be Kristen Stewart as a winner.
That's my answer, because I think she'll win one day.
That's a good call.
Yeah, I think she'll win one day.
I'll take that bet. I got Amy Adams. You got Kristen Stewart.
What if they tied?
Let's see how it goes.
What if they tied?
Ugh. What a moment. Okay. Richard Thompson said, "How much does this change if Kate Winslet had already won before?"
Entirely. I don't even know if she's nominated.
I'm going to go so far as to say I don't even think she does the reader if she already won.
Yeah. She would do Revolutionary Road, and they wouldn't have nominated her, and then she wouldn't have done the reader. That's actually a really good call, that she just wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. Kairam Balak said, "The reader isn't Winslet's strongest work by far. Would you say this is one of the most egregious cases of a great actress winning for a weak performance?"
I don't think so, because she's good in it, at least. Like, I can, like, excuse that she's good in it. I just don't like the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Meryl in The Iron Lady, I think that is perhaps a case of great actress, weak performance.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to like Elizabeth Taylor for Butterfield 8. That's another good one. So, there are others that are a little more egregious, I think.
Yeah.
Steve, no, not that Steve, the other one, said, "Take us into what you think happened to land Winslet in lead despite being campaigned as supporting in The Reader. Did enough people roll their eyes at category fraud? Was Revolutionary Road too big of a downer? Is Stephen Daldry too big of an Oscar catnip to ignore?"
I think they just didn't like Revolutionary Road, and they wanted it to be for lead actress, is like like that's how I personally feel, especially like watching it back. It's like I actually do think she is a lead, but it's like I think so too. Like I understand why they were campaigning her and supporting, but it's like I just think they wanted her to have a lead actress Oscar. Like I think we all argue they don't think like that, but they definitely do.
In certain cases, I think they do, especially with her. Yeah. They said, "You are a leading lady star, Kate Winslet." Yes. Yeah, they just preferred The Reader as a film and found it more important with a capital I than Revolutionary Road, even though I do prefer Revolutionary Road. okay, Cinegiant, Ministry of Healthy Skepticism, Christoph and Josh, they all want to know, do we think Kate Winslet scored enough votes to make it in for both The Reader and Revolutionary Road in lead, but the Academy rules prevented the Revolutionary Road nomination because you can't have two?
I don't know. Maybe. Because she was
I'm going to
nominated.
say yes.
Yeah, she was nominated everywhere else pretty much. Like one.
Yeah.
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 Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
I think this is a rare case where I truly believe she would have been nominated for both performances in the same category if it was allowed.
And Angelina out?
Probably. Or Melissa Leo. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say Melissa Leo because I feel like Angelina was like her and Brad were like, and like he was already nominated. Like he was also gonna be nominated, so they wanted them both.
Mr. Entertainment said if Winslet had stayed supporting, who would have taken her spot here and who would have won? Well, I'm not going to say who would have won because I feel like that might spoil who the runner-up is later on. But, you know, I think she replaces herself.
Yeah, I think it's her.
Yeah, it's herself for Revolutionary Road, and she wins.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Yeah. Of course, Ben Roberts and Darian Dominique Dion want to know which role we think was more worthy of this nomination/win in lead. And I think we can both agree. Revolutionary Road.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Nothing further. Glorfindel of Gondolin said, I know why Weinstein promoted Winslet's performance in The Reader for Oscar consideration, but what the hell happened with Paramount and Revolutionary Road? Kate's performance in this film is one of her best, and in my opinion, the best of the year. I'm still outraged over this. Yes, me too.
Me too.
Yeah, join the club. I think it was just, again, like, I feel like it was dismissed as, like, suburban domestic drama. You kind of just did this already with little children. We don't want to do it again, sort of thing. And maybe they just found it unpleasant. Because it's like just a lot. It's a very tense story.
Yeah, it's very tense. And it's just, it's weird because like the not campaign, but just like the marketing started out so strong of like the reunion between them and like what a moment it was going to be. And like, I remember it just being everywhere. And then it just kind of like fell off when it wasn't being like critically, like it literally just like they stopped talking about it. And it's so weird to think back on, especially like the shot of him watching her win an Oscar would have just been so like special. And it's just like very, I don't know. Like I don't understand. I'm still mad too.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like what we've been talking about, but Andy Bayless, Maddie Lucas, Stephen John, Trojan Sailor, they all want to know, had she been nominated for Revolutionary Road, does she still win? And I think we both said yes.
Yes.
A few times already. So, yes. Greg Cramine, as well as Ben Roberts, want to know why we think she wasn't really nominated very much after this, which is to say only once for Steve Jobs.
I think she just like stopped really doing a lot of like big work like this. Like it wasn't she had the Oscar. She didn't have to do it anymore. Like
yeah, I think she kind of settled down.
Yeah.
With that.
But I do want to say I really love her work in Steve Jobs. I think she's incredible and another incredible accent from her.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Yes. I mean, worth noting she did Mildred Pierce miniseries with Todd Haynes and won an Emmy in like 2011 or 2012.
And I love her in Mare of Easttown. Like
Mare of Easttown won another Emmy.
Yeah, when people see Lee, they'll see why there was like a weird release with it, but she's very good in it. Like she's really good.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean like for film though, like I don't even know what she would have had in contention as a lead.
Yeah.
Even.
I don't know.
Carnage,
she's also,
not really.
She's also,
Labor Day.
Labor Day. I also really like her in Avatar. I think she does really great work in Avatar.
Yes. Good breath work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she just really hasn't done anything. Like, I don't know. She just got more picky and like careful about her time, I guess. I don't know. She's Kate Winslet.
I think she's good in Ammonite, but I don't think she would make my top 5 for that. But
she is really good in that. I like their chemistry so much. Yeah, but not top 5. Yeah, I just don't think she's had the movie.
No. Nope. Well, Fritz said, rank Kate's leading nominations so far. Good, optimistic to say so far. Implies that she'll be back. I hope so.
Is it weird? I actually think I'd put Titanic first.
That's okay. I think that's what Murtada said last time too.
It's so, would I put that first? Let me outline this. You go first.
Okay. Well, for me, just to build off of what I said in 2006, number one is Eternal Sunshine for me.
Okay.
I think that's incredible. Number two, Little Children. Number three, Titanic. Number four, The Reader.
Okay, so I would do Titanic, Eternal Sunshine. No, I would do Titanic, Little Children, Eternal Sunshine, The Reader.
Okay. Well, we can agree on The Reader. So, but it's been a fun little journey with me, with Kate, in this era. Sad that it's over now, but...
That is so sad. You had so much of her, and now it's just going to be silence.
Now it's just cut off. But at least it was a nice little finale here, I guess, for her winning. Okay, let's move on to some Anne Hathaway here. Matt Stillman said, why didn't it occur to anyone at the time that maybe giving Hathaway the Oscar would have been the right move?
I just think it was like one of those like introductory nominations. Like it was like
welcome to the club.
Yeah, it wasn't, and I think like Shirley MacLaine's like speech to her was really like welcoming her also. Like it acknowledged that. Like she was like, we'll see you here again. Like we all knew. Like it was really like an introductory. Like I think like people, and especially like a solo nomination, like I mean they really like went out of their way to recognize her if you really like stop to think about it. There's a lot working against her to be nominated. Like I'm sure they would, I'm sure probably like they would have preferred to double nominate Kate. Like, you know, like they're like, this is not what we do. But it was really like a welcoming nomination. And like I think they also knew like this was just like the start of her like doing more prestige stuff. So
yeah. I think there were just bigger narratives with Kate being overdue and I guess, you know, Meryl needing a third. There was a lot of that talk at this time.
So much.
So I think it wasn't like a malicious thing against Anne Hathaway. It was just
I actually think like the conversation about Anne was always like, if it had just been like a different group of ladies, like it would have been different. Like, you know, maybe. But I just think like it's like intro, happy to be here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did feel bad when Shirley MacLaine was like, I'm sure you'll be back many more times with nominations. And I'm like, well, only the once, but hopefully. She's still young.
She's still young.
You know.
There's still time for the idea of you. We could just...
True. Very true. Mm-hmm. Murtada El Fadl said, always thought Hathaway would be a surprise winner had Winslet won supporting. What are your thoughts on my opinion? I think it's possible. I mean, she did win Critics' Choice in a tie with Meryl, but again, I just feel like her personal narrative wasn't really strong enough.
Yeah, I just think the timing of it wasn't, like, with her career, wasn't the moment yet.
Right. Declan Cashin said this should have been Anne Hathaway's for the taking. Is there any world in which she'd have won? What would her path have looked like?
I think she would have had to win everything to even be... Like it would have every single thing she would have had to win. And I think that the supporting thing couldn't have also like it would have also had to have not been happening, because like if she had been sweeping and supporting and then wound up in lead, even if Anne had been sweeping lead, I still think Kate would have won.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I just think Kate had the narrative, and that's stronger than anything else. Even if like the performance, the movie, everything was better. And I think she would have needed another nomination for the movie, like to be like your first nomination.
At least screenplay.
Like that's too little for me to think it would happen.
Emily said, did Bride Wars ruin Anne Hathaway's shot that year?
I don't think it hurt
I don't think it had any effect.
Because she was nominated. I feel like if it was like that badly received, they would have found some weird excuse to not include her. Yeah.
I don't think this is like a Norbit situation, if that's what this is implying. Patrick Rivers said, being that this is the last leading nomination for Hathaway, is there any lead performance after this one in 2008 that you would have nominated her for?
I don't think so.
I looked through this, desperately looking for another one, and I couldn't find one, unfortunately.
She's really been like lead in like comedies and like not like a lot of, and she's done like a lot of like supporting that's good, but not.
Yeah, I've enjoyed her in like some of these recent things like Armageddon Time and Eileen, you know.
I loved her in Eileen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not
So,
really like a leading.
yeah, oddly enough.
Is
Yeah.
she lead in the David Lowery, Mother Mary?
Uh, I don't remember.
I don't think she is.
So,
I feel like she's probably
yeah.
supporting again. Yeah, I don't know,
Hmm.
but I kind of like that about her. Like she's a leading lady, but she's also like just working with all these directors and like
Yeah.
other actors that she really admires, like just having fun.
Having fun. Yeah. Jamie said, how does Hathaway rank among Jonathan Demme's Oscar-nominated / winning ladies? Which is Jodie Foster for Silence of the Lambs, Christine Lottie for Swing Shift, and Mary Steenburgen for Melvin and Howard.
Foster, Hathaway, Steenburgen, bodies, I think.
Yep,
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
for me.
Okay.
He's pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're all great.
Yeah.
So, he directed a lot of great performances.
Yeah.
Carrie Bradshaw said,
Ooh.
do you think Anne Hathaway will ever win a lead Oscar?
I think if she does the right thing, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think like she's one of those people like you would like to say she is a lead actress.
Mm-hmm.
Also kind of like the same thing as Angelina. Like I would just like to say that about
I
her.
agree. Yes. I think if she pulls off something really unexpected and like risky and weird in the vein of like a Emma Stone and Poor Things type of thing, like I could see it.
You know who I'd actually really love to see Anne Hathaway work with is Robert Eggers. I feel like that would be really
Oh my God.
like like Nicole Kidman in The Northman, but like a leading role. I would like that from her.
I would love that. Love to see Anne Hathaway's energy mixing with Robert Eggers. Wow. Your mind. Joey Gentili said, Anne Hathaway deserved her nomination, so did her supporting ladies. If only one could get in, would you rather have Rosemary DeWitt or Deborah Winger in supporting? I totally forgot to mention Deborah Winger and Rachel Getting Married. Love talking about Deborah Winger in that 80s, 90s era. But yeah, she's a little limited in that compared to Rosemary.
Yeah, Rosemary just has the emotional beat of the story, and I feel like her perspective's shown a lot more. So I feel like if there was a path for her, she probably would have been the one to slide in. And I would love her to be in a lineup. Yeah,
me too. Diego A. Cabrera said, why do people hate Angie's nomination so much? Would you rank this above or below her Girl Interrupted performance?
Below, but like she's still good in it. I think it's because the movie's bad, like, and it takes away. And I also think people, myself, when I first watched this movie, there's like a startledness to like a 20s like portrayal from like a modern actor. Like it's like someone as well known as her. Like it's a little like, what are we doing? Like the accent, the like it's a lot. Like it's like I think a lot of people like struggle with Margot Robbie in Babylon. And I'm like, you do know the era she's portraying, right? Like I think there's a lot of like confusion of like what is a choice versus what is period accurate. But
true.
Yeah.
I think it's just a very old school, old fashioned style of
Clint
performance
Eastwood.
and film. So so it's easy to mock or dismiss, but yeah, I think there is a deliberate style and choices she's making that it's it's harder than it looks. I'll say that. Your one and only said, did getting snubbed the previous year for A Mighty Heart help Angelina's chances here, or was she always in the running since the film's premiere at Cannes? Well, I mean, to your point, there was so much advertising for Changeling that whole year that I think like it was just so
it was
hyped,
so hyped. And then like the momentum of like her and Brad as like this couple, because he was also on the campaign trail. Like it was like there was a lot going on that I mean, like I'm sure it helped that she was like front of mind, but she's also Angelina Jolie, like in a Clint Eastwood movie. Like,
yeah, she has a lot of advantages just from being herself.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Kerr said, Angelina Jolie's character in Changeling ended up predicting It Happened One Night would win Best Picture in 1934. Which other past Oscar races would you be most curious to see her get right?
I would love to hear her opinion on the Moonlight La La Land, like what she would have predicted.
Wow.
Like,
yes,
just know
she would be like La La Land overrated.
Yeah, right. I also would love to know what she thinks of Babylon. Speaking of Nellie Leroy, like what is she? What would she think? Like, I don't know.
I can't picture her watching Avatar.
No.
I'm just thinking of the end montage of Babylon.
Actually, I would pay money to show someone from the 20s the end of Babylon. Like,
Oh my God. I think they would have a
you know, when you're like,
episode.
if they were like exposed to like Diet Coke, it would kill them. Like
Yeah.
the sensory
Yeah.
overload of the last 10
I
minutes of
think
Babylon.
her nose would start bleeding.
Oh God. Also I'd
Yeah.
really love to know what she would think of like I would love to hear her opinion on category fraud. Like any race. I would
I'm
love
sure
it.
she has some
She
opinions.
seems
Yeah.
like you were saying, like the titular Oscar pundit. So I have a lot of questions for
Yes.
her.
I would also say 1950 Best Actress. Does she predict Judy Holliday wins for Born Yesterday over Betty Davis in All About Eve and Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard? She probably lived through it. She probably had opinions.
She probably had so much. Imagine her podcast.
Ugh. She was, R.I.P. Christine
R.I.P.
Collins. You would have loved podcasting.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, Existential Rock said, growing up, Angelina Jolie was one of those actresses I always assumed had more nominations. She just had that aura about her. Are there any actresses you assumed had more nominations and wins than they currently do?
I think when I was not now, but when I was younger, I just assumed Julia Roberts had like I don't know what for, but I just like assumed the way she was spoken about and like how
Yeah,
popular her win was. I was like, oh, she really like had so many and people were waiting. And then I remember like
right.
Googling it and being like that no. Like I don't know
No.
what I don't know what for though. I just like remember like the explosion when she won. And I was like, oh, this is like a
Right.
coronation. And it's like, that's not,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know what
No.
for. And that's not even presently who I would think of. It's just like, I remember as a kid being like, oh, like it's her time. And
Mm-hmm. Right. Perennial nominee, Julia
yeah.
Roberts, even though she hasn't been nominated since Pretty Woman.
Like, but I just
Yeah.
remember like the reaction being like, oh, okay. Cause like I had casually
Yeah.
watched the Oscars and I was like,
That's
okay.
funny.
I don't know who now
Yeah.
though. I think because
It's
I
hard
pay
to say
attention to
now.
them. Like we pay
Right. Like
attention.
I know how many nominations
Yeah.
every actress has at
Yeah.
this point.
Do you remember
But
like
like
growing up anybody that you just assumed before you started? No.
probably like a Michelle Pfeiffer maybe
That's a
only
good
having
one.
3,
Yeah,
you
that's a
know.
really good one.
Yeah, but like now if I'm like taking myself out of it and being like an outside observer, I'm not paying attention to this now, I would be like Charlize Theron only has 3. Like
That's a good
she's
one.
done so much. Jessica Chastain like only had 2 for a long time until Tammy Faye, and that's like she put in
Oh,
so
just
many.
Jessica Chastain's a really good one because she came so close for so many things.
Yeah,
You know, like
right.
that's a really good. Yeah, I guess it's hard because we're like so invested in
We're too
it.
tapped in.
Yeah, too tapped in.
Yeah,
I'm wired in. I'm wired in. I need Andrew
yeah.
Garfield to do a lot of things.
Do what? Go on. Another one from Carrie Bradshaw, who said, everything indicates that Jolie is back to the Best Actress race this year. Which other movie star would you like to see make their Oscar comeback?
Well, honestly, Kate Winslet.
Yeah,
I would love that.
absolutely.
I really want like I know she was just nominated, but I really want like a nice leading performance and like a movie centered around Angela Bassett. I think like she
Mm,
has like such a presence
absolutely.
and like obviously we came so close to her winning. I would love that. Michelle Pfeiffer,
Hello.
um, you're a leading lady, Glenn Close. Like I
Yeah, I mean, I mean, she is kind of like still in it. Like, I feel
yeah,
like
but I want
when I
like
think
a
about like comeback types, I'm thinking of like, like Diane Keaton. Like, let's get her back
hello, she
in
just
the
had
Oscar
a
lineup.
movie.
Sure, sure.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah,
and Julia Roberts, why not have her back in it?
Luca,
Does she have one
maybe
with Luca?
Luca. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, maybe
yep.
that's it.
I also thought, I mean, like, if I'm totally like wish casting or whatever, just like not even close to happening, I'm wanting a comeback for like Cher, Barbara Streisand.
Can they be in one
Like,
together? Um,
yes.
I really want like Diane Lane, especially after watching her on
Oh, yes.
yeah, like a nice leading. There's a lot of people that I'm thinking of that do like a lot of
Salma
supporting.
Hayek,
Yeah, like I want like a
even.
nice
Yeah.
leading. We're always like pushing for more leading performances, and I just basically let's just get Pablo Larraín to like sign on like 500 leading actresses.
Yes.
Keep it
Yes.
going.
Absolutely. Love it.
How
Love it.
many
Love
more
it.
biopics can we get this man to make?
Just keep cranking them out, one every 2 years.
I guess we're kind of close to, I mean, it's not going to be lead, but Demi Moore in Substance, I'm very excited for.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. I mean, she's never even nominated,
Yeah.
but yes, as like a movie star,
Comeback,
getting that Oscar
yeah,
recognition,
I would like
absolutely.
that. Love her.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a good question, Carrie Bradshaw, because it's brat summer. We're cooking these brats to
Sure
Oscar
is.
nominations.
Yes. Well, Liam said there's chatter Jolie could get her third nomination this year. Do you think there's a narrative there for her to win a second Oscar?
For sure, 100%. I also think there's a big narrative for Pablo to like direct one of his nominations to a win also.
Yep. It's time.
It's time. And she's like
Yeah.
really front of mind as like with her personal life. So I think honestly,
Totally.
like it'll really help keep her
Yeah.
in the front of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably going to date this podcast if people are listening like 3 years from now. But like, yeah, at the very least, I do see her being nominated. So
Yeah.
let's just,
I think
I'll commit to that
actually,
at
I
least.
think on my predictions we just posted, she was number one for almost everyone. So
Okay.
we're there.
Hope it pans out. All right. Well, Eduardo Laviano said, how did this nomination pump up Melissa's chances with The Fighter?
I mean, it
I think it helped
introduced
a lot.
her to
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
body. Like she got to say she was a former nominee. And she probably met all those people, like the same amount of people. There wasn't a big increase in votership. So it was like the same people, essentially.
Right. And I don't know when she was cast for The Fighter, but like I imagine it was around this time, perhaps.
Probably.
You know?
I think actually, I'm pretty sure Darren Aronofsky was still attached to direct when she was cast, if I'm not
Interesting.
mistaken.
There you go.
And he's a Sundance guy.
Right. True.
He probably saw it at Sundance.
That's true. So I think it helped greatly, this performance, to get The Fighter. Okay. Joey Gentile said, this should have been a tie with Leo and Hathaway. Had this produced a tie for the first time since 1968, would it have pleased the masses?
I honestly, it's hard to think about, like, because like the internet was like popular, but not in the same way we're using it now. But like,
yeah,
it's funny thinking about like us like a tie with Twitter. Like I think like Twitter would shut down. Like it would the traffic, it would just stop working.
It would break. Yeah.
Like I can't imagine I can't even picture like talking about the Oscars then, because it was like we didn't have Twitter. Like I was using like some forum website. Like I know. Like it's weird to think about. But I think like it would have like certain circles would have broken, but like not like the way if it happened now, like the general public would also freak out. Like, you know.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
especially if Kate wasn't involved in the tie. Like,
yeah, if Kate wasn't
nuts.
involved, it would have been like Kate tying with herself would have been really funny.
Oh, yes. Okay. The Ghost of Glenda Miss Jackson, If You Nasty, said, would nature have healed if they went with the SAG winner, Meryl Streep, here and given her her third Oscar and fixed future issues?
This is like, the photo society if, and it's like flying cars and stuff.
Flying cars, yes.
That's this.
I think everyone has universal health care.
Yeah.
If Meryl Streep wins for doubt.
Like we have healthcare, like Orange Man was never president, like the works.
Yep.
Society healed.
All of it. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I would not have minded it, and then Viola probably wins for The Help, and maybe Michelle Williams wins for Manchester by the Sea. That's a nice narrative to be in. I'll say that.
Oh my God, and then she would have never played the Fableman mother.
Wow.
Could have saved ourselves.
Speaking of divisive performances, yes, Jamie said, if Cherry Jones had reprised her role in Doubt rather than it going to Meryl, would she have been nominated? Would she have been more of a challenge to Kate?
I don't think she would have been more of a challenge, but she would have been nominated, and that would have been really exciting.
Yeah. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think she would have challenged. No,
She's
I don't
like,
think
I
so.
think like because Kate Winslet's like a populist actress, it's like very hard to
Right.
overcome.
Joey Gentili said Franny McDormand was the original choice for Meryl's In Doubt, but said no. Angelica Houston, Kathy Bates, Sigourney Weaver, and Jessica Lange were considered. Which of these would be the best pick had Meryl said no?
Jessica Lange.
Yeah,
And I would have
agree.
loved to see that.
I feel like we kind of got a little bit of that with American Horror Story Asylum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where she played a nun.
Yeah. But this would have been really
but
cool to see like the moral balance of it. Because
totally.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yep. Mark Lamb said, what would have happened if John Patrick Shanley had insisted that his Moonstruck cast, Cher and Nicolas Cage, star In Doubt? Would Cher have been nominated for an Oscar just like Meryl? How about Cage? Wow.
Not Cage. I can't even see it.
Father Flynn.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually just picturing the long legs voice doing it.
Oh.
I don't know. I can't see either of them. I can't see either of them doing it and being.
It would have been insane.
It would have been.
I kind of want to see what that would look like. Not gonna lie.
It's weird. I want to see it, but I also feel like it would not work. And it's nothing against them. No. I actually think they're both like, I love Cher and I love Cher's Oscar win. But like of course. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see it. I don't know. Is there something about them being like too famous? It would take me out of it.
Yeah, especially Cher at that point. I think.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm picturing Cher like of this year, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, no. I don't know. And I love pop stars playing like serious, but I don't know. There's something about like the size of this movie that feels too small. Yeah. For their stardom. She's
way too big for that. Yeah.
Which is weird to say about Meryl Streep, but Meryl Streep can like lose herself and stuff. I feel like Cher can, but not on that level.
Jeremy Kaplan said, like 2006, this is a somewhat rare year where all 5 nominees won Oscars at some point in their careers. For each nominee other than Kate Winslet, do you prefer the performance here or the ones they won for?
I prefer Anne Hathaway here versus what she won for
Les Mis. Yeah, I prefer this easily. Angelina, though, I do prefer her win.
Yeah, I prefer her win. Melissa Leo? I don't know.
I kind of prefer Frozen River personally because I like that more subtle work from her.
Yeah, I think the same. And I actually prefer Amy Adams, and then that solves a lot of problems.
Meryl, you know, her first 2 wins I would rank above Doubt, but not the Iron Lady. So again, if this were her 3rd Oscar, that would be a good thing.
That would have been such a nice little trio of wins too.
Yeah,
that's so sad.
Sure would have. Yep. We don't have to spend too much time on this because we're running long, of course. But Adam said recast the presenters for each of the 5 nominees.
Oh, I don't know. I actually really like all 5. Except like it's like. Yeah, I like them all.
Yeah.
Except I came Nicole. Up with a list. Oh my God, what do you have? Except Nicole Kidman's delivery is really painful. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, not as heartfelt. Yeah, for Anne Hathaway, I just said Julie Andrews.
That's a really good one.
Because of that connection.
Yeah.
For Angelina Jolie, I kind of struggled, so I just went with like an easy like Clint connection and just said Hilary Swank.
That's good.
I don't know. Yeah. For Melissa Leo, I was like, hey, let's do another, you know, blue collar type actress, Frances McDormand.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah. For Meryl Streep, I said Cher.
That's so good. And then she would go on to play her mother. Oh my God.
I know. Yeah. And for Kate Winslet, I said Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson's. That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. Tying in that first, oh man. Yeah. I don't know.
Look how far she's come.
I really do love the presenters though here.
Yeah.
Except Nicole Kidman's delivery. It's so painful, but love her. She looks beautiful.
Of course. Yes. But I mean, Sophia Loren for me steals the show there.
It's just like, I don't know, like, and I love, I really think that like Shirley MacLaine feels really important for Anne Hathaway and like her comedic, like, like, I don't know. I like the way they did
so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mind it. You know, this past year was a little iffy for me.
They should have picked someone who likes the Oscars to do it, is all I'm saying. It
Yes.
felt, and like it just felt like they didn't really rehearse it like at all. They didn't like
No.
tell the
Especially with like Charlize Theron talking about Annette Bening. I'm like, are you reading this for the first time?
and like it just felt like they didn't really tell the nominees like how to approach the stage. Really, like it felt really like I don't know. And there's all
Yeah.
like all this like, and I don't think they should have had Jennifer Lawrence with Emma Stone. Like I don't know. I know what they were doing, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm never going
Yeah.
to argue seeing Jennifer Lawrence on an Oscar stage. That's not what I'm doing. I just did not like the.
Okay. Yeah. Chels said, this cast feels more traitors than Survivor. Who's the traitor / traitors? Who are the most faithful of the faithfuls? Do you see a Suri among them, or are they more Dan? Who makes it to the fire of truth? I don't know if you're a traitors watcher.
Chels always texts about traitors, and I'm like, I see a lot of buses. I see a lot of billboard. I've never watched it. I don't know.
Okay. I'll take this. Sister Aloysius is faithful in the most dangerous of ways. She would be very accusatory of who the traitors are and leading the pack for sure. Christine Collins feels like a faithful, but someone who would be wrongfully accused of being a traitor based on her history. Kim, I'd say she's faithful. I actually think I think Melissa Leo could really work as a traitor. I think that would be really fun to see. Hannah, I don't know. She's probably a traitor.
Probably.
But I think Hannah could probably make the fire of truth, oddly enough. Maybe Ray. I don't know. It's a weird group of ladies this year to do this with.
I was trying to read the outline of the traitors, and I was like, I need to watch it. I don't understand it.
Yeah. It's too complicated. Yeah. Let's see. Alicio said, recast these roles with the 2008 Primetime Emmy for Drama Actress lineup. Glenn Close, Damages, Sally Field, Brothers and Sisters, Mariska Hargitay, Law & Order SVU, Holly Hunter, Saving Grace, and Kira Sedgwick, The Closer. Love this question.
Is it weird that Kira Sedgwick would be good at like almost all of these?
I think so, yeah. Well, for me, I'm saying Glenn Close in doubt.
For sure,
with an
100%.
Yes. Non-negotiable.
I feel like everyone will say Holly Hunter for Frozen River. I feel like people,
Frozen River.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who do I want for Changeling? Mariska?
Maybe. Is she German?
Yeah, I feel like that would be better.
So I was going to say, could she be the reader?
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be an interesting change of pace from Law & Order SVU for her to do the reader. Yeah. Kira Sedgwick in Changeling?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to say a young Sally Field in Rachel Getting Married.
Yeah, that would actually be very good.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah. That's a nice question. What a group of like ladies nominated at the Emmys also.
I know. Just a few more snub questions here. Fritz and Ben Roberts want to know why Sally Hawkins wasn't nominated for Happy Go Lucky.
I just think like it wasn't the time and like the weight of the actors in the conversation, like compared to her at that time.
Yeah, and I think she wasn't as known at that time.
Like it's just like I think now she's like a name, especially to them, but not at this point in time. Like, and
she's
it's like
a lead of a Best Picture winner. Yeah. Now.
Yeah.
Do people remember that Sally Hawkins is the lead of a Best Picture winner?
I hope somebody does.
Yes. Yeah, I think also that film is, I think some people could find that character, I mean, it's literally in the title, she's a very happy-go-lucky character, sort of endlessly
She doesn't fit with this group of ladies
cheery.
At all.
Not at all. She's not the vibe. Not the vibe.
We were going dark this year.
We sure were, yes. Andrew Carden said, given Benjamin Button's healthy awards season run, why do you think Cate Blanchett scored so little traction?
I think it was just too late when it started picking up steam. Like I think if it had started like 2 months earlier, she probably would have been in contention. But I also still think that Kate essentially taking up like 2 spots was like prohibiting like anyone else.
So greedy.
So greedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good performance. I think I don't know if the main takeaway from Benjamin Button is Cate Blanchett necessarily, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, last one from Joey Gentili. Recast these 2000s Oscar talents and Karen Black in these roles. So Marcia Gay Harden, Holly Hunter, Catherine Keener, Samantha Morton, and Karen Black.
I would like to see Samantha Morton do Rachel getting married.
That would be a great role for her. I love that.
Yeah.
I put her in The Reader.
Oh my God, I would also love that. I just like want her in everything. I just want her in everything.
Samantha Morton, Oscar comeback. How about that? Should have happened for She Said.
Should have happened for She Said. Talk about one scene that just like,
Yep.
Yeah. I like that I just got so hung up on Samantha Morton. I'm like, Karen Black, and I don't know.
I put Karen Black in Changeling.
Oh.
I think Karen Black could do an old school Hollywood glamour type of thing with Changeling.
I would like to see that.
I could see her being sent to a asylum.
Yeah, I can see
pulling that part off well. Yeah. Marcia Gay Harden, I put in Doubt.
I would love that, actually, a lot.
Right?
She could really do that.
She would ham it up, and I would love it.
Yeah, I like that. Now I want to see that.
I said Holly Hunter in Rachel Getting Married. I think that could be interesting.
Oh, yeah. I would like that. That would be really good.
Yeah, Catherine Keener in Frozen River.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to our final segment where we will reveal who we think was the runner-up to Kate Winslet here. Kenzie, who do you think it was?
I have no doubt that it was Meryl Streep. I think I want to say it's Anne Hathaway, but I don't think at that point in time, and like you were saying, like the narrative for Meryl to get a third Oscar was like really big, especially after The Devil Wears Prada. It was like, when's it coming? When's it coming? Yep. Like, I just think that was like, she won the SAG. Like, I just think like if anyone was going to challenge her, it was going to be Meryl Streep.
Yes. I completely agree. Once again, Meryl was the runner-up. Yeah, it's exactly what you said. It's the building narrative of when's she going to get her third. She won the SAG. I'm so curious what would have happened if it was Kate for Revolutionary Road, given how they responded to that film.
Yeah.
Would Meryl have actually won? And maybe Kate wins for The Reader and supporting. Could have happened that way. I don't know.
Could have, yeah.
Yeah. So, interesting.
I think if she was nominated in like lead and supporting, they would have just given her supporting just to like get her an Oscar, and then do the same thing kind of like with like a lot of these ladies where they're like, here's your supporting, we'll come back to you. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that could have happened. Alternate history. But who would you have voted for from this lineup?
I would have voted for Anne Hathaway. I think it's like a really special performance. It's like I love an introductory nomination so much, but it really like made me see her in a different way. And like, it's just like a really like, especially rewatching it, I forgot how much of it really did stay with me. Like I remembered so much about it, and it's like not really a movie like in the conversation that much to be like thinking about, but it's like, I like remembered the way it made me feel the first time I saw it. And I think it's like so much of that is her performance, and it's just like, I don't know, it's really special, and I don't really care for for her win, so it would have been nice to seen her here. I would have done that. What about you?
We are on the same wavelength. Wow. I would have voted for Anne Hathaway. At least she got these 2 votes.
Yeah, we did it. We pushed her over the edge.
We're supporting our Yeah, I don't know. This feels like one of those, this is not really the best comparison, but like you think about this last year with like the Emma Stone fans, the Lily Gladstone fans, then there was like, hey, what about Sandra Hüller? Like that's kind of how we're feeling, I think, right now.
Yeah,
it's like, yes, she was probably third, but like such a good performance. Really deserved to be considered. And her best performance ever. Would have been a beautiful little like just like,
I wonder what her career would have been. I wonder what her career would have been like had she won here. Like what her path would have been like. Like would she have done more smaller prestige movies? Would she have continued on the path she was on? Like, because you're saying like we're looking up her filmography, and it's like there's a lot of good stuff. It's just like not a lot of like more award centered stuff again.
Yeah, interesting to think about. Yeah, but Meryl Streep for me is actually a strong number 2. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I agree.
All right. Well, Kenzie, thank you so much. I have no doubts that this was fun. Such a great time. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun. And I'm so happy I got to finally be on an actress episode. So fun.
Yes, for sure.
cannot wait to see what's coming on this show because there are so many good races coming up. Can't wait. There's a lot of bad movies you have to watch, though. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, a lot of not so great winners, perhaps, in the coming weeks, but we shall see what we think on the revisit. Where can people find more of your work online?
You can find my work at offscreencentral.com. We have a lot of stuff coming up, including about Angelina Jolie and dominating this race, let me tell you. Yeah, and you can follow me at Kenzie Vanunu on everything for Nosferatu updates. More Angelina Jolie, all of it. Maybe I'll start tweeting about Anne Hathaway and Rachel getting married.
You should.
I should just start that again. And then I will,
and we can make it a viral thing again.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. You can find me on all platforms at Kevin_Jacobson. Shows at Oscar Runner-Up on Twitter, Instagram at And The Runner-Up Is. Rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you liked what you heard, go to patreon.com/andtherunnerup.is, where you can hear a whole bunch of bonus episodes. Next week, it is time for the season finale, where we'll be breaking down the Best Actress lineup of 2009, where the nominees were Sandra Bullock in The Blind Side, Helen Mirren in The Last Station, Carey Mulligan in An Education, Gabourey Sidibe in Precious, and Meryl Streep in Julie and Julia, with the winner being Sandra Bullock. Should be fun. So with that, thanks again, Kenzie.
Thank you.
And I will bid you all adieu.